that, today began Sabres development camp. For more on that and also the draft from this weekend, we have pieces up at our website, WGR550.com. Camp will run until Thursday, but around the league, free agency will get underway tomorrow at noon. And today is the qualifying offer deadline for restricted free agents. That's going to close in just 2 hours at 5 o'clock, so we'll keep you updated on all of that. And then for free agency, some of the top unrestricted free agents that will likely be available include Mitch Marner, Nikolai Ehlers, and Aaron Ekblad. Some movement, though, before free agency began. The Red Wings do acquire forward Vladimir Tarasenko from Minnesota for future considerations. The Maple Leafs add Matias Marcelli, and to do that, they send a conditional third to Utah. And the Islanders lock down defenseman Alexander Romanov to an 8-year deal worth $6.2 million per year. The Jalen Ramsey trade finally came down. He's going to Pittsburgh. Also going to the Steelers is tight end Jonnu Smith and a 2027 7th-round pick. While Miami, they get a reunion with safety Minkah Fitzpatrick and add a 2027 5th-round pick. Fitzpatrick was drafted by Miami in 2018 and was eventually traded to the Steelers in September of 2019. And then just after 7 p.m. tonight, the Yankees travel north of the border to take on Toronto. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I don't think that's a very good attitude.
It's Mike Schopp.
You don't think? You don't think? I don't think you should be butting in when I'm talking to my team. You're my assistant, okay? You're supposed to back me up and go get me juice boxes when I tell you. Now go get me a juice box.
You know who you're talking to?
It's the Bulldog.
I'm talking to the juice box guy.
You're crazy.
I'm not crazy. I'm just thirsty.
Why don't you go to hell?
No, you go to hell. While you're there, why don't you grab me a juice box?
I'm no juice box boy, I'll tell you that.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you
It's
are.
Mike
I'm not.
Schopp
You
and the
are.
Bulldog on WGR Sports Radio 550.
Whose team are you on in that clip? If I'm the head coach.
Yeah, no, it's the way man, how do we? I was just sitting here thinking that clip makes me sound like I'm the juice box boy. Like I'm pretty
You're
sure
putting yourself into that?
That's what I feel like. I'm the guy that has to go get the juice boxes.
Who was
Just
the other
because
guy?
of the order.
Me?
No, where the names are said.
Oh.
It said, and the Bulldog. You're the guy that's supposed to go get me back me up and go get me juice
Right.
boxes. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm juice box guy.
I had nothing to do with it.
I'd never really thought about it before right now, and it's the first time you've ever commented on that open, and I just was thinking about that open for the first time ever.
I think I've maybe mentioned before that I think it's fun. Juice boxes are funny there, right? It's Will Ferrell. A juice box, like it's not a Gatorade, it's not a beer. It's a juice box. That's funny. And they think about like whether juice boxes should be more mainstream. Like why don't you ever see adults drinking out of a juice box? You never see it. Are there places you can go where you do see it?
Kids' birthday parties when we're thirsty and out of alcohol?
What happened to those little hugs? Remember those? Plastic, see-through containers, sort of like a football shape almost, with the metal top that you peeled off.
There it is.
What happened to those?
Metal 100% top. Metal top.
Over the juice box.
Metal top.
100% over the juice box. You got to be happy.
I never liked how those. I always thought those tasted like chalk.
Oh, well, I don't know. I've never tasted chalk, but I think I've never tasted chalk.
I
miss them.
Grape. I had a chalk ingesting problem when
Quote,
I was a kid.
grape.
It's a sensitive area.
Probably not grape.
I'm going to go talk to
Purple.
HR about your lack of sensitivity towards eating chalk.
Purple, not grape.
Do we have HR? We do.
What?
It's not in the building. Anyway.
You got your defenseman. You must be thrilled.
Yeah, that was the guy I thought made the most sense. I was honestly hoping, I don't know if it sounded that way on Friday, but I was pushing back on you saying, like, they don't need more defense. And that was the guy I had in mind, really. It just sort of fit where the rankings were. It's that this guy should, if he's there when they want to pick, it won't be perceived as them reaching or anything. It sort of fits. If he is there, somebody doesn't take him before that. He was around their second defenseman in the draft, according to Scott Wheeler, I think. And so, that worked. And I'm still I'm sort of in the same place I was Thursday afternoon following the Peterka trade, which was I like what's happening. I like the moves that are being made, but I don't like how any of it sounds because it's already to my ears starting to sound like we're being prepped for there not to be an impactful offensive player brought in here. After the draft on Saturday, Adams is talking about out-competing more skilled teams, and there was a quote about like scoring wasn't really our problem. Quinn is mentioned, Benson is like the tsunami is gathering strength off the coast, and we'll see. It may not become a full-fledged tidal wave. Maybe it'll get swept back out to sea by some move that gets made in the next 48 hours or so. But
but how much energy do you have to sort of make that point?
I'm nervous.
When does it ever happen?
I'm nervous. I like Timmins. Timmins for Clifton is a win. It's not a huge win, but it's, to me, an upgrade. Clifton needed to go, and I'm glad that they did. It wasn't like a huge problem. They could have just had him here as a depth guy, maybe, but does this team keep $3 million in the press box? So changing him out for Timmins, again, not earth-shattering, but I think you got better there.
I might like it if they put $3 million into the press box.
Yeah.
Just to sort of make it nice.
So I like that. The picks all sort of, we'll see. I mean, whatever. I like the first pick and the third pick on paper, the meanest guy in the draft. Like, they're leading into that. We'll see if the league changes again by the time these guys are ready to play in the NHL, but whatever. So I like each move. I can sort of, okay. But the thing that...
Good for you for trying.
The thing that needs to happen, that I still think needs to happen, hasn't happened, and I can only hope that Adams is playing some kind of 3D chess by sounding like he doesn't need to do it, sounding like they're fine keeping Byram if it comes to that, and really that's just an effort to sort of drive the cost up and hopefully make a deal here, either before tomorrow or, after.
3D chess. The Sabres?
I know.
All you said was you were hoping.
I'm hoping.
It's nice of you to say it.
I'm hoping, yeah. So I don't know what to really make of it right now.
I think your read is probably right. That we don't know if when is it ever different? We don't know if we can do the obvious thing. And it's going to be expensive and it's hard. And, just so you know, we still have Jack Quinn. I would never say they don't need defensemen. They need everything. But I don't like allocating a top 10 pick to a defenseman when they have Dahlin in power. And for that matter, Samuelson, given his contract. I mean, he's not on the same level as those players. For me, it was Megan Chayka who blurted it out almost as soon as the Sabres announced the pick. Do they need AD, though? Like, is that really what is missing and it's years off? That's why I didn't like this idea. But I'm not going to pretend like I'm not standing on anything when I say it. Like there were two guys sort of bought into that were not defensemen that had been picked. One is the guy, one is Hagens. The other guy was the guy that was mentioned, Brady Martin.
Yeah, right. He
went 5.
He went 5, yeah. I think I said to Brayton Wilson, who did a lot of draft work for the station and the website, WGR550.com, when he visited with us on Friday, he said it sort of feels to me like Martin and Hagens have switched spots. Like a lot of the rankings that you would have looked at after seasons were done, I would say. Sort of, Hagens was maybe 3rd or 4th, and Martin was 10 or 12. Somewhere in that range. And as the thing was creeping closer, it very much felt like those two guys had switched spots, preference-wise with teams, and at least the teams that were making the picks on Friday felt that way, because Martin went, 5th overall, I think, and Hagens lasted a little bit longer.
7.
That would have gotten interesting, like, if he'd have been there, because that would have been a hard choice, I think. Even for me, to turn your back on a guy that was that highly rated at 9, I like this defenseman just fine, but that to me would have been a tough decision to make.
Yeah, and for me it would have been easy. But yes, you're saying like you might have been open to it. You would have been open to it.
I would not be in here screaming about they passed on Murda if they'd picked Hagens. I can tell you that. I don't know. I think I could have gotten behind it pretty easily. But they didn't get that chance. I'm
not going to apologize for this. I just have no hope. I just do not see this. The Sabres had the weekend and prior to kind of reassert themselves and sort of, to some extent, get you back. Like, that is always there for them. But how to do that would not have been trading Peterka. It would have been more how you were about him, which is like, no, buddy, you work here.
Yeah.
Let's figure it out. I don't have a problem with who they got, but I don't know if it's going to be high impact. Like, Peterka is somebody who has been pretty high impact, and he could get higher. So, didn't love that at all. And then the draft, Byram is still on the team. Why? Because they couldn't trade him? Haven't been able to yet? Haven't we had that like every year with somebody that, maybe they'll move this guy? I'm going back to Ristolainen, like maybe they'll move this guy. Makes sense. People are wondering about it. So the Sabres are talking to certain media people about it. Byram has been easily that. Like, he's been in everybody's articles whole time. Not traded. What's going to happen? Are they going to really? They're not going to give him a big contract, right? So
I don't think they will. I don't think they have to. I don't know that Byram wants it. But the situation may dictate that he just sort of swallows hard and lives with, a qualifying offer or a 2-year deal at some handsome bump. And the Sabres, again, Adams is saying everything, right? So whether it's a bridge deal or an 8-year deal, he is said about Byram. So
there was an Adams quote about him that I thought was good for my purposes, which was, and this is from Paul Hamilton's article, in speaking with Byram's agent, Darren Ferris, Adams said, quote, "I've just been very honest with him." Like, that doesn't sound, he gave away, Adams likes to talk, and maybe sometimes it's not in his best interest. But, to anybody inclined to try to read between the lines, he gave it away with Peterka. 5 minutes into the last press conference, Peterka was gone. Like, he just didn't say the things you would say. He went into other players. Like, he didn't even give you this. He did on Tuck, who was almost the same conversation, but, he wants to be here, etc. Didn't on Peterka. He told you. He was going. And so you didn't need Darren Dreger, right? Like, he was going. So he'll sometimes give it away. And for me, that sounds like we're not giving Bowen Byram that contract. I've been honest with the agent. Like, that's even just almost a quote. I've just been even the just, in my word-obsessed mind, even the word just there, I've just been very honest with him. I'm telling you, we're not doing it.
My guess would be that everything he is saying about Byram is just some effort to give teams that are interested in him, that have been calling him maybe for months about this player, I doubt it's working, but some impression that, look, I don't have to trade this player. I don't have to do it. I will keep him.
But this line is admitting to those teams, if they're reading these things closely too, it's not going to happen. So I don't mean to trade. I just mean like the big deal.
Right.
So if I'm another team, I'm not afraid of that.
Right.
Agree? You want to put it, like, read the context? I don't know. I've just been very honest with him. It's something you would say when, like, they've been very honest with me when I'm going to try to make the big deal.
I think you can perceive being very honest as you might be stuck here.
Well, right.
But I don't know. I can't.
All I'm doing is ruling out the big contract.
Right, and I'm not sure that I would want to do that based on that.
Okay.
But still, I don't think it's coming either. I don't think the player and the agent want it at all. So that's my guess. I mean, there's probably a price tag where it gets ridiculous, and you can't say no. And I just don't think it warrants getting there anyways.
Well, what's he worth? Like, if you wanted to trade him, the Sabres got pushed into the Peterka thing, right? They just felt like they had to do it. And I don't know, they might have done all right in that trade. It's not Peterka, but it's 2 guys, and it was a few days before, like
Wednesday night.
So, they liked it. We talked on Friday or Thursday and Friday. Like, I choose not to hate it. So, okay. But this player, if you rank the possible outcomes by what's in the Sabres' best interest, if you don't want to sign him to a long-term contract, And part of that might be because you know the player doesn't want to either. What is the order? 1 is trade by a lot. 2 is some sort of bridge deal. 2, is there anything else? I mean, there's 1, 2.
Yeah, I don't think there's really any other. I don't think a long-term deal makes sense for either side, so I would rule that out.
Doing that.
All right.
Trade 1, keep him short-term 2.
Right.
And so why isn't he traded? I mean, this is the number 1 complaint about them, isn't it? Or is it just like money spent? Let's rank that. Let's make that list.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to do that. But just like the inaction, here's a player that there's almost no other outcome that works but to move him. And you've got enough Emily Kaplans out there talking about his being traded. It doesn't happen. Why doesn't it happen?
Well, maybe this is where the order of things being done the way they were hurts. And also the return. I mentioned this, I think, on Friday. When it started to become apparent, at least from the comments and from the reports from the big guys, your TSNs and your Sportsnets, saying they're not finding the return they want on a Byram deal, and these things don't have to be connected, but being perceived as selling low on Peterka could result in teams trying to buy low from you on Byram, force you to sell low on Byram, and if you don't want to do that, singularly. You don't want to do that, then you have a problem. It compounds if Byram was the guy you really wanted to trade all along. Peterka was not. Maybe you should have took your time on Peterka. Again, maybe you're not going to get the return that you liked, in particular from Utah. Maybe they move on to something else. I don't know. But dealing Peterka first and leaving you with Byram, perceived as dealing from a weak deck, maybe doesn't get you a good deal on Byram, and maybe the reverse order would have done better.
Maybe.
And so now I think the reason he's not dealt is he knows he's got to kill this trade. I think he can maybe recognize they like the guys, I'm sure, that they got from Utah just fine, right? But if the objective analysis is saying you got fleeced, I think you have to try harder to make sure that doesn't happen with the next move you make. So there's no selling low on Byram now because you already sold low on Peterka.
But what are the actual consequences if you do that? Are there really any? I mean, how many years go by? How many moves don't work out?
Right.
What are the actual consequences?
We're all going to say this is terrible and whatever. They'll keep going.
Nothing will change.
They'll play their games.
Right. I just don't think he's that good. And that's the whole reason why I think he was always scary to me as somebody the Sabres might invest in long term. They had made the, for whatever it's worth, commitment to him in the trade. Like you're talking about GMs and appearances. Now, Middlestad's on another new team since then. He's not been a star or anything. He's not one of these multitude of Sabres who leave him and win.
Right.
But, still, you gave away a first-round pick for this player. You want it to work out. And so you don't want to trade him. It's what you're saying. It's just from a different angle. Mm-hmm. You don't want to trade him for somebody, for a non-first-round pick or just somebody who's going to play in Rochester, something like that. But if that's the best you can do, what are you going to do? What do the Sabres usually do? Pass. Sit there. And then, I don't know, maybe he's on the team and maybe that's not a disaster, but what the guy showed here is that if you put him with Dahlin, he's fine, which who cares? And if you don't, he's a mess. So, don't other teams know that too? And the Sabres want some sort of a deal here. The team that trades for him has to sign him big. Right? That's what the Sabres would be thinking is somebody comes along for Byram and it's 7 years, $50 million.
That's who I want to be on the phone with. I do not want to trade him to a team that just wants to kick his tires and give him a qualifying offer. I want to trade him to somewhere where they're going to give me assets fitting for a guy that they're going to turn into a cornerstone.
But that team has to exist.
Right. That team has to show itself and be willing to do all of those things, give up the assets, and then pay the player. Because you don't get that return without them committing to the contract.
Right. So guess what? That team does not exist because teams are smart now, and he's not worth it. So now what? I don't know. Were they surprised that they couldn't I wish I knew like what the offers were. We almost never get to know that unless it's involving Marco Rossi. Then they tell you like an hour later.
Right.
This is what Minnesota. He wasn't traded, was he?
No, not that I've seen. No.
Can we still do that? Maybe.
I don't really want to.
Okay. Well, we'll see what happens with Byram because what is he worth? Is there a team? Maybe there isn't. What else about the draft was the usual thing that we talk about but didn't happen? Oh, well, I mean, these picks are for sale, right? Like everybody kind of wants out after top 5 or something like that, but nobody can do it because same thing. They're not getting offers that are interesting to them, which, that's fine. I don't mind at all that the Sabres drafted a player. That wasn't my thing this year, like that they had to trade the pick or something like that.
I only liked it as an idea to sweeten a Byram trade. Like if that can help get something across the finish line, I'm not going to be crying over here that I didn't get to pick at 9.
Same.
But that didn't happen. And so, I didn't need them to just move down just because. I thought, that would be hard to do. And it probably was.
Well, the best part about making the pick is that, like so many other teams, we got to watch them interview the player. Whose idea? Who thought that would be good? Just in different ways, it's a terrible idea.
Yeah.
It's a terrible watch. It's super awkward and boring. Of course, we like that you are a good two-way player. And I am so happy to be a part of this. And they're on camera, and everybody's just so stiff. Which is totally hockey. That's how it always would be.
I thought the Bruins won the draft simply
by not talking. Yes.
To me, it's at least possible that they just pretended their crap didn't work.
That's what I said on Twitter when that happened.
Same. Yeah.
The Sabres have to fake a technical difficulty here.
If I'm the Bruins, I was watching the first or whatever it was, 6 picks, and going, we're not doing that. I'm not doing that. I don't want to do that.
But the Sabres weren't any worse either than anybody else.
No. But the whole thing was the whole. I, in a way, loved it because it became hilarious, which is not in any way a good thing. But I had fun watching it. Owen and I we were laughing almost, pretty regularly. We had a very good time watching it, which is not what I would have had a good time if it were well done and buttoned up and sleek and interesting. That would have worked too. Instead, we got a comedy of errors. There's no way that the GMs, when they we want to work from our draft room, we don't want to decentralize. When did they find out they had to do that?
I know,
because there's no way they would have signed up for doing this if they knew they were going to have to do that.
That's what Joe said. Sneaky Joe was like, did Bettman deliberately tank this draft strategy by, there's your 3D chess, where Bettman's like, let's make it really almost unwatchable.
Right.
So that next year everybody's together again.
Right.
There's your 3D chess. I see somebody you would give credit like that to. I don't know. Well, there is a development camp now, and Paul was out there today. We'll talk to Paul later in the show. Luke Fox today, get an analysis of not just what happened over the weekend. Most of what's going to matter in the short term in the NHL is going to happen in the next 48 hours. It's not even like as usual. Like the draft is mostly guys who are years away, if ever away. But of course, free agency tomorrow. So we'll get in on that. Big doings between the Steelers and Dolphins today. Bulldog will not deprive me of, I'm saying it now, Jonnu Smith analysis here. That's just going to, I'm going to force it in.
It's warranted. I'm looking forward to it. Yes.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
That's an I mean, the
ADP.
The Steelers think they're going to be good, I think, and that's interesting.
Yes. Let's talk about that. Yes. Okay. 803-0550 for your calls. Luke Fox, Paul Hamilton. Get into this football trade, too. Thoughts on the Sabres weekend are welcome, appreciated. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR.
If you take 28 goals out of your lineup and potentially more because JJ's still a young player, what do you do? How do you replace that? What happens? And some of it can be the internal. The guys like the Jack Quinns of the world and Zach Benson's progressing in their own game. But to be honest with you, when I really boil it down, I think with the talent that we have, we weren't as focused or concerned about scoring goals. It's more, can we defend better? Can we be a team that is harder to play against, defensively plays the game more responsible, I guess would be a better way to say it. And I think both of these players, that's why we focus so much on them, will help in that regard. So that's a big part of it.
Kevin Adams, so the Sabres might be transitioning to, a usable trait.
Not scoring goals.
Well, that's how someone mean would put it. That's one way to put it. Tougher to play against. Remember, it's just like, I don't want to sort of be two-faced here because we like that, right?
No,
we like that.
Yep.
But it's just sort of bad team talk. Teams without real cup aspirations, real high end, really don't waste your time with grit so much. Maybe, they'll get asked about grit and then they'll say, oh, absolutely. But it's really just like not fundamental to the construct.
Oh.
You think it is?
Yeah.
I just think...
I think they don't get asked about it because they have it. You're not a cup contender right now without it.
You're not a cup contender without talent either.
Sure. I also agree.
So if you have that, maybe the wrong point is to say, like, talking about it. Like, maybe that's not the right point. But it's just, I think you gravitate there when you don't have / can't get your hands on the top, stars, basically. So you make it about...
Sure. No, it's a bit of, it's harder to play against. It's their turn.
Harder to play against came up on the wheel.
They're getting picked early today because that's the thing that we weren't really good at. We did score. We were top 10 in 5-on-5 scoring. Having skilled offensive players also should, in theory, help your power play, which this team absolutely needs. But okay, that's another conversation, I suppose. But anyway, yeah, you spin the wheel. Like, we're not any good. What was our problem? For a while it was scoring. Then, 3 years ago they scored like crazy. Then they tried to pull back on that a little to toughen up and get more responsible defensively. I don't remember how often they talked about being harder to play against, but, same thing. And that didn't work. And so they swung back, and now this year, this past season, scoring again, with the exception of the power play, somehow. Anyway, but scoring better, defensive problems all over the ice. Goaltending was a problem again, no surprise with defensive problems. And so now we're back to that. And it's a little like, it's not the same thing, but it echoes of, we need a coach that everyone's we need a disciplinarian. Oh, we need a guy who's more friendly. Like, if you have the mean mustache, tough disciplinarian coach, and that doesn't work and you fire him, then you get the guy that is going to let you have the ping pong table. And then when that doesn't work, this is from straight out of the Bills drought handbook. When that doesn't work, then you pivot back to the tough guy again. And you just keep going. And that's where we are with the Sabres right now is, we were small and soft. Everybody said it. And we believe it, and more importantly, we can sell it. We're going to change that about ourselves. Look, and the reason I am sort of, I don't know, do I sound conflicted about them right now? I'm not sure if I'm conflicted exactly. I like the effort that's being made in that area, but it cannot be at the expense of scoring goals and being talented and having a middle of the pack even power play. All things that they should be aspiring to do. That somehow has escaped any analysis during this offseason so far, that their power play was terrible, despite all these riches of talent that they had. So, we can afford to trade JJ Peterka because we're going to score. We score. Okay, except when you really should with the man advantage, you don't, but all right.
Well, last year, they hired Lindy Ruff. I was at the event. I'm sure he said it numerous times. I was present for one of those times when he was talking about, his feelings about the Sabres from afar. Like, what kind of team is it that you're inheriting, right? And he talked about how offense, my words, offense runs its course. Eventually, people figure you out. And that's what he said. I was sitting right next to him, or right in front of him. Eventually teams figure out how to defend you. So he got his hands on it. He got his hands on a team that had goal-scoring ability, but he thought, among other things, that maybe the style of play was getting them beat. And what did we get? 10th in the league in goals, 29th in goals against, and a terrible power play, which I think is mostly coaching. Like, you don't have talent deficiency on the Sabres. So what do we get? We got a coach with tons of experience who we like. That was the idea, I think, was to flip that, and it totally didn't happen. And they went the wrong way. They were worse as a team, last year. So whoops. And now I think maybe we're going to double down. Part of it is out of necessity. Do we really want to trade Peterka, or do we just feel like we had to? So this is how it is. Goals are expensive. Third pair defensemen are not. The Josh Doans of the world are not. I mean, that's perfectly in line with the Sabres, identity as a franchise. They don't want to spend. So, okay, we'll trade the young goal-scoring witch who, not a perfect player, but it's going to cost us a lot of money. We'll do that. And, this can always be adjusted. But I don't know, like the weekend's over. And free agency is never their day. July 1st is just never their day. What would make it their day tomorrow?
I honestly don't even have I don't even have
it's too far
yeah.
from reality to even ponder.
I am not going to give anyone the speech about try to get in the room with Mitch Marner's people or something.
Forget it.
Come on, I can't even. No. So no, I agree. Maybe the biggest surprise, and this doesn't even mean that it would be a good idea that it would work, but the biggest surprise tomorrow would be the Sabres finding a winger that credibly deserves $8 million a year and signing him. That would be mind-boggling. If the player wanted to do that, if they wanted to do that, it would blow my mind. So I rule that out. Like my best hope for offense right now is that once Brian Rust can't control where he goes anymore at 34, soon to be 34 years of age, that you can trade Bo Byram for him. That's and that doesn't have to happen tomorrow. Well, actually, that can't really happen until after tomorrow,
Wednesday,
till noon. Well, once noon hits tomorrow,
noon tomorrow.
He's a free. Then that no move is gone.
Okay,
and you could do that. That's the ceiling to me.
803-0550. Garrett is with us. Hello, Garrett.
Hi, how's it going, guys?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just for context here, I'm a 21-year-old college kid, so I have suffered long and hard about watching the Sabres never make the playoffs, basically. And I wonder obviously you guys touched on how soft we've been, pretty much forever. And I remember the days of Nick Delorier and even Foligno when he was around. And I just kind of wonder what your guys' thoughts were on our third round pick and his physical prowess that he had. And the new D coming in with the trade with Peterka, as much as I hated the Peterka trade as anyone else, I think, like you guys touched on earlier with Byram's situation, our defense has been a problem for years. And, I just wondered what your guys' thoughts were on kind of how we go about doing that. I know you guys talked about getting somebody like Bennett, and obviously that's not possible.
Bennett.
But I think we see success with the team.
What channel are you listening to?
Paul has stumped for Bennett the entire. In an ideal world, that would be my target. Basically, he never said it was a realistic idea that the Sabres could pull off. But if you could pick anybody, basically, I would take Bennett before Marner.
Okay.
Was something Paul.
Well, apologies. I had never said it, but that's fine. I can feel fine about the defenseman they got. I have no opinion on a third-round draft pick and maybe never will. What are the odds?
I like how he reads on paper, but it's years away. I think If the guy can play, which it seems like he can, getting a guy described as the meanest player in the draft, I'm good. I like that idea.
Shouldn't that be a first-round pick?
Shouldn't
the meanest player in the draft?
If he were a better player, yeah, then maybe.
If he were a lot better,
he
would have gone in the first round?
Yeah.
That seems right.
Yeah, that's how that usually works.
I don't know. No offense, but I'm not. Life's too short for third-round hockey picks. Just
that's all right.
Single digits % chance of mattering.
I'm here. I care.
Good. I just single digit % chance historically of meaning anything to the big club. Nate is next. Hi, Nate.
Hey, guys. I just had a comment on the Adams talking about basically just trying to get tougher and, not without directly saying it, kind of saying we don't really need to be worrying about scoring. I just wonder, what era of hockey he's watching. I mean, not being able to score is, great if he wants to be known as, the Islanders or the Devils, just absolutely boring teams to watch. But it also kind of puts yourself in a pickle on how, repeat times like the Colorado games happen this year where, you are up and you can't score, but if you have talent and actually can score, when you're like Colorado, you can actually come back in games. And I don't know, his strategy just kind of seems like, well, if we're down and, we're just going to have to take the L because
I think I want to stop you because I think you're subtly mischaracterizing what he is saying there. I don't think what you're hearing from him is that they don't care about goals or that goals aren't important and that you don't need to score goals. What he's telling you is, and this is, open fire if you need to here, you probably should. We have enough. I'm not worried about losing Peterka's goal scoring because that's not a problem. We're going to get more from Benson. It's really the speech I was fearful of when I started talking about the trade of Peterka in the first place. As long as I don't get told we've got Quinn and Benson, then and you replace Peterka in some credible way, maybe even upgrade from Peterka in some credible way, then okay, because I like these pieces. They fit in nicely. They give you something you're lacking. Great. So he's not telling you goals aren't important. What he's telling you is they're not important to him right now because they think they have enough. And, maybe we'll get to take that car out for a ride and see how that goes. But I have a hard time believing you're going to just replace Peterka's offense with the guys that are here. I don't see it.
Just want to add, he might not actually think it. He's saying that he does.
Okay.
Right?
Sure. Yep.
If he can't pull off what's necessary for whatever reason, financial, how he really wants to complete the build of the club, inability to consummate these deals, all of the above, then
he has to make it sound like a plan.
Yeah. 100% of the time, the person in that chair, post-draft, Sabres, Bills, anybody, is going to tell you why he likes what he's got. And he might 100% believe in that, or he might 40% believe. I don't know. If there is this trade that you want, this signing that you want, then I'm with you, where they replace, as it were, Peterka's offense, he'll have a press conference then too. They should have a parade if that happens, at least a press conference, and he'll say exactly what Nate wants to hear. Offense, right? We're back.
It's going to help our power play.
Right. We're back. So I don't know. I don't know the answer, really, with Adams. You could convince me that he's down with this, that all of it, right? That it's time to shake up shake up the makeup. I'll just say that. You're going to like that, right? Yeah. You like that. Shake up the makeup. And, come a little bit back offensively, take a step forward defensively. Maybe, let's try that. That part of the shame of the losing is that, for me as a fan, hockey or football, I'm always here for offense. It's not just because it's more fun. It has nothing to do with it. It's more fun. It's just always a little bit to a lot disrespected. It's talent. It's not effort. We love effort. We love work ethic. We love team camaraderie. We love, toughness. We love all these intangibles, none of which are actually scoring goals. and you've had a team here that has really done well to score goals, but hasn't gone anywhere. And now they want to look more like the Panthers, right? Without Kachuk and so on. They want to look more like a team that, you might not like playing against. And I'm going to roll my eyes for the next few months every time it comes up, because Florida's nothing without elite offensive players who can make the rest of it be worth enough. I mean, you have to have that. And the Sabres have had it. This was the Bills for so many years, culminating in Sean McDermott. But, Rex Ryan very much was this, right? Just like I always said, I think Rex sees passing as effeminate. Like, that's not real football. And like, oh my God, the only great teams I've ever seen wearing Bills uniforms were amazing on offense, and we're still going to try to, condescend and talk about all the other stuff that you talk about when you don't have elite offense. But as you rightly pointed out earlier, you still do, in hockey, you still do talk about the other intangibles.
Now, more than ever now, because of Florida and Dallas, and even Edmonton learned how to, part of the reason Edmonton got to beat Dallas is they figured out how to play that way. And it isn't just, beating people to a pulp physically, but it's being hard to play against and defending and all the stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, that's, you're a cup contender. You got to have that now. And it's the Florida effect here. But Tampa sneakily, when they were great, was kind of similar. And it got outshined by, the high-end guys, but the foot soldier guys on that team were the same as Florida.
Why was their reputation different?
Stamkos and Kucherov and Hedman, high picks and like big flash, flash. But the depth guys mattered a lot there.
Hart Trophy winners.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah,
trophy winners. Florida, not quite on the same level. All right. Thank you, Nate and Garrett. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog back after this timeout. This is WGR. Join us at the top of the hour, talking about the Sabres, the weekend, and free agency ahead. Here is Nick with us. Hi, Nick.
Hey, gentlemen. How you doing? So I obviously, I'm here for it in terms of the complaining about the JJ Peterka trade, but I do think that I haven't heard anyone talk about Josh Norris as a replacement. He led Ottawa in power play goals a couple of years ago. He's a 35 goal scorer.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's had some injury issues, but I haven't heard anyone mention him as a replacement for goal scoring.
Well, the sound point. You got to be able to count on him being here, and they definitely are. I mean, he's under contract. He's the highest paid forward on the team right now. I don't know if Tuck will get north of his figure, but it's 8.4 or something. Like, it's a big number, and many, many years still to come. So he's a new core piece, is what he is. He replaced Cousins contractually and on the depth chart, and really one-upped him, because I think he should outrank Kulich going into the season as far as their depth chart at center goes. And he's easy to forget because he got here and played 3 games. And you're right to be – anybody who's not mentioning him is probably doing so because they're afraid to count on him.
Or they just forget about his existence.
Right. But either way,
That's me sometimes.
He should matter. He should matter. And if he's healthy, then he's a big upgrade from Cousins. I'm not even going to say just an upgrade. I think he's a big upgrade from Cousins. He is a player who has produced when he's healthy consistently. He has had a real problem staying healthy. Cousins is kind of the opposite. He doesn't produce, but he's always in the lineup. You can kind of count on him at least being there. Norris is, just has a tough time staying healthy.
Big upgrade over the Cousins that we eventually lived with. Thanks, Nick. How was the ride Saturday?
The ride was great. The ride was tremendous. I was so happy the company was in the position they were. We were like media partners for the first time since I have been here, and that meant a lot to me because I love this event, and I've been doing it. It's the 5th year in a row that I've done it, and to have the whole company behind us, and like we had a tent there, and our people were all on the stage, calling out people who were finishing, and just sort of, just doing the thing that gets done at an event like that. It was really, really great. And I said near the end of Friday's show, I couldn't believe I got up Friday morning needing like $120 to get to a nice $3,000 for my fundraising for the year. And I asked on social media, can anybody want to help me get this done? I'd really appreciate it. By the time we rode on Saturday morning, I maybe was at $4,300.
Right.
It was just and the company did great. Roswell had, I think, a record amount of fundraising for this edition of the ride. And so it checked all the boxes.
6.1 million.
Yeah, physically I felt great. Like we knew it was going to be tough coming back in. The wind was blowing, and when you ride out in that part of the county, going out, you're going to have the wind at your back mostly, and then eventually you're going to have to turn around and come back. And sure enough, that was what happened. But we plowed through it. It really a couple of people. One gentleman who came from Tennessee. He lived here. Has been in Tennessee a long time. He's an active cyclist, belongs to cycling clubs down there. Saw me posting on social media about the ride and told his wife, we got to do this. I want to sign up and do this. And he came, and I rode with him. Bill was his name. I rode with him maybe 30 of the 45 miles. We were side by side. Really great. Another guy, Adam, Army vet. He has a brother. They love the show. Love all the morning guys, the whole thing. Wow. It was really, really great. I had a great morning. Good. I didn't even feel like I rode 45 miles either. Like stamina wise, even with the wind, I felt really great. So how about you? How'd your thing go? That was
terrible. No, I loved it. It was the Scott Fishbowl draft.
Yeah.
It was really fun. Thanks to Louis G for setting it up, Nick Fatty for having us out at his joint. You like to say that, joint?
Joint, yep.
At the Wurlitzer building. Great day. It was nice weather. That helped.
Yeah.
For you too, I would say, probably. It was windy, like you said, but just fine. Next, Luke Fox, Sportsnet, on all the NHL news. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
We're on to the next phase of the NHL offseason as the draft wrapped up this weekend. Development camp for the Sabres going on this week, running till Thursday. Today as well, we also have the deadline for qualifying offers to restricted free agents being put forward. That will close in just about an hour at 5. And then tomorrow at noon, we'll begin free agency with some of the top unrestricted free agent names, including Mitch Marner and Nikolai Ehlers. Sub-movement, though, before free agent begins, one of the biggest names on the board is off of it, reportedly, as Florida keeps defenseman Aaron Ekblad, 8-year deal worth $6.1 million per year. The Islanders also locked up one of their own defenseman, Alexander Romanov, to an 8-year deal worth $6.2 million per year. And then the Red Wings make another trade. They acquire forward Vladimir Tarasenko from Minnesota for future considerations. In the NFL, the Jalen Ramsey trade finally came down. He is going to Pittsburgh. Also heading to the Steelers is tight end Jonnu Smith and a 2027 7th-round pick. While Miami, they get a reunion with safety Minkah Fitzpatrick and also add a 2027 5th-round pick. For Fitzpatrick, he was drafted by Miami in 2018, but was traded to the Steelers in September of 2019. And then just after 7 o'clock, the Yankees, they are traveling north of the border to take on Toronto. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
They have this Panther sound effect that is just the cheesiest, stupidest sounding thing. Big voice guy going, Panther goal scored by Sam Reinhart.
Where'd you get that thing?
I trapped it. Been keeping it in my bathroom at the motel, feeding it old pizza.
It's Mike Schopp.
If you're calm, that wondrous big cat will be calm too. But if you're scared, that beautiful death machine will do what God made it to do. Namely, eat you with a smile on its face.
And the Bulldog. On WGR Sports Radio 550.
As you may have realized, we've talked about it a little bit, the little time there is between the end of the hockey season and all the activity. That's what you'd call this, right? Activity.
Sure.
Tomorrow.
The draft, free agency, it all comes pretty fast.
Development camp.
Yeah, there's that too.
So not exactly like football where they draw all that stuff out over 4 months to the extent to which you just sort of, somebody I know will make mock schedules in advance of this. Like even the schedule release is its own drawn-out event. With us now to discuss the NHL, the draft, the free agent period, the Sabres, Luke Fox from Sportsnet at Luke Fox Jukebox, one of the best Twitter names. Luke, welcome back.
Yeah, happy to be here. Busy time for NHL news. So it feels like every hour or so there's some little bit of tidbit that comes out, whether it's a rumor or a signing or a trade. It's good time, fun time to be a hockey fan.
And we certainly appreciate you finding time for us, considering all of that, Luke. What's your read on what the Sabres did before the draft? Let's start there with the Peterka trade with Utah, and then we can go from there into what their offseason might end up looking like.
Sure. Generally, you say whoever got the best player in the trade probably won the trade, and I think Peterka was the best name in the deal, so you might want to give it to Utah, but I would say give it a little bit of time here. The Sabres were in a position where the player didn't want to sign long-term. He's coming up as an RFA, and management has to make a decision. They have to do some smart asset management, and if they don't think they can get the player at a reasonable rate, or the player is not going to be happy, or they don't envision him being part of the core long-term, then you try to get the best return possible. And I thought they did that. They got two pieces. I think there's a lot of people who follow the Eastern Conference that don't stay up and watch a lot of Michael Kesselring, but a lot of people are high on this defenseman. So, let's let this play out a little bit. I think he could develop into a pretty strong player. Adams and Kekalainen are betting that his best years are still ahead of him. Mm-hmm. And, he's a good player. He might be the nicest piece over the long term. They might say, this wasn't so bad after all. But Utah obviously wants to to get more scoring, wants to make a bit of a splash this season with the new name, new owner, new market. So they're being aggressive. But I want to let this one breathe a little bit before we say that the Sabres lost this deal. I think it was not bad asset management considering they were pinned into a bit of a corner.
Yeah, respectfully, with all that in mind, the possibility that the players they got could turn out, I mean, that's always there. You sort of, I don't want to say this like personally, Luke, you lose me at, well, if the player didn't want to stay. And it's not because you're wrong. It's just because that is kind of a lot of Sabres life, Like how they get to a place, or in this case, got to a place with Peterka where he would just have wanted at such a young age and had enough leverage, I guess, to pull it off. However, he must have been pretty convincing that he didn't want to be around. So, as you surely know, there's been a lot of that with the Sabres, and I don't know. I guess that's still happening, right? I mean,
well, it is still happening because that trade was that a week
Wednesday.
ago?
Yeah, not even. Right.
So the trick is to build a culture of winning where players aren't asking out. You want to get to a point, and it's not going to happen overnight. With you're having what happened in Florida. Like there was a point in time when no one wanted to be a Panther. It wasn't exciting to go play hockey down there. But they got to the point now where Aaron Ekblad, just less than an hour ago, took a massive discount. He probably could have made $8 million on the open market, and he's staying for, I think it's 6.1. That's where you want to get to. But baby steps, and then you have to make decisions along the way. But, you make a good point. There is certainly a trend of guys flexing their leverage to get out, and they're in a tough spot. So, let's see what happens in free agency, how this all settles out. What happens with Bo and Byram. That I think feels like the next shoe to fall here. Like, do they keep him and convince him to stay? Or, do the trade rumors actually come to fruition, and is he the next one out?
Yeah, that's the situation. I did not want to see them divest themselves of Peterka. I understand the position they were in. I was tempted, Luke, to say maybe, we've got you for 4 more years. Like, I'm sorry you don't like it here, but we're gonna turn this around, and you're gonna help us do it. And so, like, here's your qualifying offer, or here's a bridge, or whatever it is. But they didn't do that. Byram, I think, makes sense to move on from because they've already got kingpins on the blue line. I like the pieces they got in the trade, Kesselring and Josh Doan. I almost called him Shane, his dad. But I need to turn Byram into something to, if not directly replace what Peterka gave them scoring-wise, at least be a part of what's going to help, subsidize their scoring there, because I'm having a hard time listening to the GM talk about Zach Benson and his 28 points and Jack Quinn coming off an injury lost really 2 years, being the answers there. So if they can turn Byram into something, then the Utah trade with Peterka, to me, looks a lot better, because I like the pieces in a vacuum, but I just don't think they have the scoring to replace Peterka without making another move.
No, they don't. They absolutely do need more offense. And also, they went out and got Connor Timmins out of Pittsburgh, and it's like, wait a sec, how many NHL level defensemen do you need? So it does feel like something could happen there. There was whispers that Romanov might get traded, and he just re-signed on Long Island. So the defense market right now, especially I just mentioned Ekblad coming up the board. There aren't many out there available, whether it's trade or free agency. So it probably is a pretty good time to be willing to trade a defenseman who's still in his prime age, who can log top 4 minutes, no problem. So, this is if they do follow through and trade Byram, you expect a nice return. And I think the Peterka trade shows you that Adams isn't just looking for futures at this point. He wants guys who can play now. So that, trading for a forward who can put the puck in the net would make a lot of sense. And there's a lot of moving pieces right now. Maybe teams that want to get a defenseman in free agency strike out tomorrow, and then Byram value goes even higher on the trade market because teams are left like, well, we need a top 4D. We don't have one. We missed one in free agency. We got to trade one. Buffalo has one of the best ones available. So maybe it might even be smart to play this out a little bit.
With Luke Fox of Sportsnet, Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR. I wonder, Luke, and I'm not sure this is a question Adams would take, but the idea, like getting pieces for the now, that doesn't surprise me. And that's how he's talked for a while now here with, like, enough, my words, enough already with the futures, right? 14 years without a playoff spot is pretty, tough stuff. So I just wonder, like, in a vacuum, if he would be different with this roster. Like, do you feel like it's the right course of action to get pieces for the present when you were just, 26th? Was it even that high? 26th, I think it was, in the league in points? Because normally, they're young enough and they're down far enough where you might just be being young is kind of your purpose right now. But the Sabres are acting like they can't afford that given their history, and I'm not sure I blame them.
No, I think you make a good point. In a vacuum, you might take a step back, especially considering the 26th draft class led by Gavin McKenna, as regarded by amateur scouts as more enticing than the 25 draft class that just got picked over the weekend. So it's a really interesting time in the league because outside of the Pittsburgh Penguins, there aren't pretty much any teams that are trying to get worse right now. Maybe the Calgary Flames, especially if they trade Rasmus Anderson, maybe they're willing to take a little bit of a step back. But even the teams like San Jose and Chicago, Anaheim, the teams that had been tanking are ready to take a step forward. Pretty much all the good teams, the playoff teams, none of them want to take a step back. They feel like they just want to keep going. So there aren't many teams that find themselves in tank mode. So, but on the flip side, I do understand that you need to get some veterans in there. You need some leadership and some maturity in that room. It's such a young room. And, on paper, you have a lot of raw talent, but you have to start building a culture. It's a really tough situation for the front office to be in. You're trying to make it work, but this is still, unfortunately, a multi-year project. I wonder what happens if Buffalo gets off to a poor start, if they just look at that draft class in 26 and say, you know what, we didn't want to do this, but maybe we do have to take, would lay off the gas and, heaven forbid, go a 15th year and miss the playoffs.
Heaven forbid, all of it. I mean, I'm sort of like a little bit excited, but also...
my boy's tingling over here, Luke.
The 26th draft. Why wait? Let's go. The draft is our life.
Well, one other piece that they've got maybe a decision to make, and this is a tough area because goaltending is just, good ones are very rarely available, and even good ones are, throw a dart, like on a given year, a given offseason, like who knows? Gibson finally got traded to Detroit. We'll see if that works out because he's been kind of at the top of that list of, accomplished goalies who might get moved for many years now, and we'll see what kind of player he still is when we get there. The Sabres have got Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen 1 year in on a contract extension that did not go smoothly, and we're still sort of waiting for Devin Levi to show that he's ready to hit the beach. And I'm not sure that happens. It could happen this fall, but I'm not confident. So, like, what do you do there? Is it Jake Allen time? I mean, what do you think you want to do in goal if you're Buffalo?
Yeah, Jake Allen's probably the top name on the list just because, you know what you're getting in him. Is he a number one? No, but he's a solid number two in this league, and the goalie market is completely ravaged right now. He's the one that the GMs are most talking about in free agency. New Jersey has an inclination to keep him, but his price point, I had heard he might be asking for as much as $5. For him to actually get $5, I think would be surprising. I think you can get him for less than that. You can get him short term because he is getting a little bit older. He's not going to. I don't think he would need a great commitment in terms of term, maybe 2 years. But you could do worse than him. He's a solid goalie. He's the kind of goalie that, could push UPL and force Levi to earn his way up. Levi, I think he's RFA, right? Like, he doesn't even have a contract.
Right.
They still need to negotiate with him. And maybe that gives you some leverage in the negotiations too, if you bring in a solid guy. Going in with a tandem of just Levi and UPL, I don't like that. So, I think it would be wise to get some more stability there and get a veteran in there. And Jake Allen is, by all accounts, is a good teammate too. He could help kind of groom the young guys and give them some pointers. So the fact that Detroit's taken itself out of the goalie market, that's probably your best bet. And the Sabres do have cap space, so maybe they can get something done there.
With Luke Fox, the biggest name there is to talk about, I would say, is probably Mitch Marner. And it seems to many, apparently, that his going to Vegas is a done deal, maybe even surreptitiously a done deal. It's not actually July 1st yet. What's your expectation there?
Yeah, my expectation is that he's going to be a Golden Knight. We're just waiting now to see if the Leafs can swing a trade in terms of like a sign-in trade to potentially for the Knights to get 8 years and have Vegas jump the market here. Because if he actually hits the open market, then you'd for sure have teams like LA and Anaheim and Carolina poking around, maybe Utah. We talked about them wanting to make a splash, but all signs point to Vegas as the landing spot. The big question mark is, can Brad Trier living in Toronto get anything for Marner's rights? If they want to take his total value of his next contract, spread it over 8 years, only the team that owns his rights can do that. Once you get to noon tomorrow, then the most a team on the open market can offer is 7 years. And Vegas is always pressed right up against the cap, so anything they can save there would help them. The guy that Trey Living wants is Nick Waugh. Bottom six center. The Leafs need center depth. He's signed for 2 more years at $3 million, and so the Leafs could slide him into their roster right away. They want help right now, so that's what they're aiming for. And the big question is, can they get it done? Does Vegas even care to get it done? Or do they say, we're not giving away an asset when we feel confident Marner will sign with us at noon anyway? So that's the struggle that's going on right now in between Toronto and Vegas.
Is there what do you make of the smoke around tampering? Because that's made the rounds in the last 24 hours or so, that maybe Vegas, Toronto might have a leg to stand on there, charging them with tampering.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. I'm a little bit skeptical that it actually goes down that way. It feels like it might just be a threat, because I think if the league investigates or charges Vegas with tampering, and we do know that, the team did have interest in Marner dating all the way back to last summer. They engaged in conversations. Toronto was kind of keen on getting Shea Theodore. Vegas ultimately re-signed Theodore, and Marner stayed put. Toronto tried to trade him a couple times. He wouldn't waive his no move as per his right. So the conversations between the two teams go far back. But what Vegas is not allowed to do is talk to Marner directly. So if the league were to open up a file and investigate that and go deep and tick off the Golden Knights by doing that, then you open a big can of worms, because there is a lot of nudge, nudge, wink, wink conversations that go on in the league. And if I'm the Vegas Golden Knights and I get, investigated for tampering in this case, I'm going to cause a huge stink and point in the direction of 31 other clubs that might be doing a little bit of, doing some stuff that falls in the gray area. And does the league really want all the conversation this summer to be around, the kind of backdoor suggestions about players? I wonder if they really want to open this up.
Yeah.
Is there something big for Toronto? I mean, I know they kept Nyes, which I thought about halfway through this year, if Marner's going to end up going, and it was looking like he was, that Nyes is like the new member of the core group there. He really just has emerged. So, maybe, bigger and better still to come from him, but we're talking about the Sabres replacing Peterka's offense. Is there a move to replace Marner's offense or all-around play, or do you think it'll just be what they've got coming?
Well, you do it by committee. So, this afternoon they traded for Matthias Michelli out of Utah. He's coming off a really down year, but he has hit the 50-point mark in the past. So they gave up a conditional third for him. They're hoping maybe he can fill a second-line role, get back to a 50-point pace. But he can't defend like Marner. Marner was up for the Selke one year. He's on the first penalty-killing unit. So they're going to have to find someone to help Marner's void as a defensive forward. That's where they're going to gun hard at Brad Marchand if he hits the open market. There's whispers that the Leafs could offer him as much as 8 times 4, which is a really big bag of cash to hand a 37-year-old. But the UFA market is so thin, and Marchand is that rare two-way forward who also brings leadership and playoff pedigree, and he rises to the big moments, that they're willing to do that. But basically, you can't replace a 100-point player in this climate. So you're just trying to patch it up. And to be quite honest, the Leafs won the division in the regular season, and they're going to be really hard-pressed to repeat. Florida hasn't really lost a step. Tampa has no interest in laying off the gas. And then you have teams like Montreal that looks to be improving. Ottawa is on the rise. So it's going to be very difficult for them to even maintain their level while losing Mark.
Is that Marchand idea $8 million for 4 years or $4 million for 8 years?
Isn't that like? What do you guys think of that? It seems and I love what Marchand brings, but that seems really high for a guy who's 37.
Yeah, both ends of it seem really high, but the term and the money.
But why not? I guess
Right.
I thought we were venturing into Bobby Bonilla territory. If it were 8 years, we're might as well.
Not 8 years.
Yeah, let's just put the whole thing off. $1 million a year for 30, whatever it takes. I don't know. Luke, great to talk to you again. Enjoy July 1st. Thanks for your time.
Okay. Hope Adams can right the ship here for you guys.
Yes. Happy Canada Day, July 1st. Not just
Thank you. Yeah, thanks.
Not just Bulldog's birthday, not just free agency, but Canada Day. Let's not forget that. Luke Fox from Sportsnet on the West Her Hotline. Check out his articles on free agency on Sportsnet. Or through Twitter. That's how I get there.
That's where
Luke Fox
find
Jukebox.
Yep.
I just like typing in Luke Fox
That's
Jukebox.
a great handle.
803-0550. Thoughts on the Sabres moves, or, maybe you wanted more. We usually end up wanting more, most of us. We'll talk some football, too. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
More contracts being handed out in the NHL, namely 4 defensemen today. Edmonton and Evan Bouchard just agreed reportedly to a 4-year, $10.5 million per year extension. Florida keeping defenseman Aaron Ekblad, 8-year deal worth $6.1 million per year. And then earlier today, the Islanders and Alexander Romanov, 8-year deal worth $6.2 million. Tomorrow will begin free agency at noon. Today, in just about a half hour, will be the deadline for qualifying offers going towards restricted free agents. Also today for the Sabres and running until Thursday is development camp. We'll get more on that, the draft from this weekend, and of course free agency. Paul Hamilton joining the show at 6 o'clock, so do stay tuned for that. In the NFL, they couldn't let the NHL have all the fun. They had a trade today as the Ramsey trade finally came down. He is heading to Pittsburgh, also going to the Steelers. Tight end Jonnu Smith and a 27th, while Miami, they get a reunion with safety Minkah Fitzpatrick. They also had a 2027 pick. It is a 5th rounder. And for Fitzpatrick, he was drafted by Miami in 2018 and then was traded to Pittsburgh in September of 2019. It's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Yeah, Jake Allen's probably the top name on the list just because you know what you're getting in him. Is he a number 1? No, but he's a solid number 2 in this league, and the goalie market is completely ravaged right now. He's the one that GMs are most talking about in free agency. New Jersey has an inclination to keep him, but his price point, I had heard he might be asking for as much as 5. For him to actually get 5, I think would be surprising. I think you can get him for less than that.
Luke Fox of Sportsnet on with us just a short time ago. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. A lot of action around hockey over the weekend. Good insight from Luke. Have not yet talked about the Miami-Pittsburgh football trade. It's fun. I'm curious how the insiders had such a tough time with it. Ramsey announced he was being traded, Jalen Ramsey announced he was being traded to Pittsburgh. Then insiders tweeted that their sources were telling them that. Then it was announced that Minkah Fitzpatrick was going to Miami in the trade. That was not announced for a short while. So that happened later. And then Jonnu Smith happened after that. So
like piecemeal here.
This trade, yeah, I mean, it was tough apparently to find out exactly all of what was happening, but I'm excited for it. Fantasy-wise, Jonnu Smith on the Steelers is a problem from the Dolphins. He had a big stat year for Miami, and he probably won't for Pittsburgh, and maybe he and Pat Freiermuth cancel each other out a little bit, so, normal people haven't had their drafts yet. A lot of us,
we can act accordingly. Yeah,
you're checking to see how much Jonnu Smith you had today, but that was not a total shock. I mean, there was a report a month ago or so that Schefter had a tough time with this one. Like the Steelers were pondering trading for Jonnu Smith, and then they weren't.
Right.
Then they were again. Now they did.
And then they were calling other teams about tight ends or something. I think that all happened too. And now Miami today is reportedly calling people about tight ends. Like,
crazy.
I don't know. Maybe not. Don't trade the guy. Whatever. Situations escalate and get to where, things like that have to happen. We just lived through it with J.J. Peterka here with the hockey team. No good reason to have to trade this young, talented player. But here we are. We had to do it.
You want to help him?
What's that?
You want to help Miami?
Do I want to help Miami? What do you mean?
We've got two tight ends.
Sure. Yeah, if they want to take Dawson Knox's contract, I'm all for it. I can't imagine the Bills trading Josh Allen's like best bro on the team, but sure.
Yeah, he's untradeable. Kincaid, I was thinking.
Probably.
Kincaid, I was thinking.
I would rather still hang on to that and hope it works. I mean, it's not costing me a lot of money yet, like Knox's money that I just can't even really comprehend for what I get from him. But anyway, the whole thing, Miami, maybe this is all they're a little Sabres-y here, I think. Like, we've got good players that we're selling off, and we're getting Minkah Fitzpatrick's a name player. I think he's crested the hill and is on the other side now as far as being a real difference-making player. But, boy, in his prime, he was excellent back there playing safety. But Miami, I don't see it, man. Like, I think that they're backing up. And Pittsburgh, I think, thinks they've got Aaron Rodgers, and we can challenge Baltimore for the division.
I think Pittsburgh is doing it right here. If you're going to make the Rodgers bet, why stop there? You know, just Metcalf, this trade, even Jonnu Smith, for what that's worth. We'll see what happens with TJ Watt, who's still unsigned and maybe unhappy. But I think you always want to be going one way or the other, not neither.
That makes sense. Not thinking it's going to work is another thing. But I think I agree with that premise. Like, if for some reason we were living in some universe where the Bills needed to sign Aaron Rodgers to give their quarterback room credibility, then I would say, yeah, what you should do is try to win now. Yep. That's what you should be doing, because it's obviously this is not a long-range projection. I don't even think it's a very good short-range projection, given the state that Rodgers has mostly been in the last few years of his career, including before he even left Green Bay. And that seems like a hard Rodgers to even see anymore, is that guy, who is still pretty good. Like, if he were that guy, I think this whole thing could work. But I just severely doubt that he is. But sure, I wouldn't have made the Rodgers move, but once I did, then I think, I would just go for it. So that's what they're doing. I don't think it's going to work, but they're at least they've chosen a lane and they're all in.
What do you do if you're Pittsburgh and you choose not to sign Rodgers?
Say as many of the right things as I can and get through the 25 season and draft somebody in the top 5 because I'm that bad.
So like the Browns.
Yeah.
But then you don't trade for Metcalf.
No.
You might trade Pickens, but you don't trade for Metcalf.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know that they're not a little bit too good, right? I think that we've seen it from the Steelers the last couple of years, getting very medium quarterback play, but still getting to the playoffs. I think the likeliest season would be that they would come close to that. Maybe they wouldn't make it, but they'd still come close to it. Probably. And this would give them, I think, no matter, I don't even really disagree about Rodgers, like his performance, but it's better than what they had, probably. So now they're more plausible as like a fringe playoff team, which is what they're going for. Or, they're going for higher. But, yeah, like I said, I think if you make that move, you do stuff like this. If you don't, then maybe you think of a couple other ways to back up. But it would be so obvious, and it would be unlike almost the entire history of that franchise. Like it's just never a team that's talked about for last. Like we've mentioned, they were 5-11 in 1988. And in 55 years, they've never had a season worse than that. Even a second season that was 5-11. Has the show ever sounded older? 16-game seasons. Pittsburgh to make the playoffs. I don't know if this changed. I wasn't tracking this before today. One of our guys probably is telling us, what the movement looks like, and maybe for Miami too.
I did see today that the win total had not changed. The 8.5 maybe was the win total, and that it did not change with today's news. So
that
I don't
seems
know
right.
That would be any different than what you're talking about. But.
And it might have changed with Rodgers when he signed, but it might not have because of the people who were assuming that he would sign there. So we wouldn't want to double count that, right? Like he probably was going to be their quarterback.
And that was baked into everything already. Like, I think even circling back to you referenced them trading for DK Metcalf. Like, I think everything they've done has been with that in mind. It's easy to say that now because it came to fruition, but the way some of the things that have been said since, it sounds like Rodgers was in pretty regular contact with them and that they had reason to believe that it was going to happen, and it ultimately did. So I think they acted as though he was going to be their guy, even though he didn't sign until the late date that he did.
I don't know if this has changed either, but plus 140 to make the AFC playoffs. I could see it. I'm not sure I'll do it, but I like it more than minus whatever it is to miss. I wouldn't want to bet minus 175 or something that they would miss.
No, not that
plus,
team.
Plus 140 to make it. Who makes it? Bills, Ravens, whoever you want from the South, say Houston, Kansas City. I mean, those three teams up top, and without Houston, are almost locks.
Right. A second team from the West and a second team from the North.
Cincinnati Chargers or Denver. And then you have one more.
Right.
If not, both the Chargers and Denver, like last year.
Right.
Or Miami. It's Pittsburgh. Where would they rank on this list? I guess they wouldn't be top 7 if they're plus 140, but just outside, I guess.
They're going to have to be better than the Bengals. And again, I think they're acting like they think they can take down Baltimore and like more, fine. Maybe you're right. I kind of doubt it. I think being better than Cincinnati will take a pretty heavy lift. Not that there couldn't be 2 wild cards from that division. Of course, it just happened last year in the West, like you said. But I just would expect there to be, there always is. It's a very hard. We live this life. The entire drought was this life. I forget the division. Okay, now what? I'm battling how many teams for how many spots? Okay, great. So they've had success doing it that way and have gotten in more often than not. But I don't know, man. I think it's tough.
They've had a couple of years here in the recent past where they got way ahead and then fell apart. Last year was also that. There was the 11-0 year. Was it 11-0 where they lost to Washington and just kind of fell apart? I don't know if there's really any trend there, but this kind of season could be possible again. Their schedule goes Jets, Seahawks, Patriots, Vikings, Browns. That could be 4 wins. At the Bengals, the Packers, home to the Colts, at the Chargers. Teams like the Bengals and the Chargers are the kind of teams the Steelers always somehow beat.
Right.
Like they win those games. That could be like 7-2. They don't even have to be good. Then it toughens up. Cincinnati again, maybe they split those games, say. At Chicago, Bills, at Ravens, Dolphins, at Detroit, at Cleveland, Baltimore. 10-11 wins is not nuts for Pittsburgh. We'll see if we hate it and want to make fun of them like we do every year when they are the worst team in the playoffs. I mean, they haven't won a playoff game since they beat Alex Smith against in Kansas City one year, pre-Mahomes.
I look forward to making fun of them.
You think it'll happen?
I think it'll happen.
They are also an annoying primetime team because they always seem to get so many games. They do have 5 so-called island games this year, too. One being a Sunday morning game in Ireland. But Thursday night at the Bengals, that's watchable. Sunday night, Green Bay at Pittsburgh, Rodgers, right up your nose the whole night, Rodgers. If you want that. Steelers at Chargers on a Sunday night, Week 10. Miami at Pittsburgh. It's more compelling after today. Week 16, Sunday night. No, Week 15, Monday night. I was looking at the Bengals. The Dolphins have back-to-back primetime games there against the AFC North. So buckle up for that.
I'm not going to buckle up yet. I'm gonna ease into the buckling.
Yeah, you're not ready to talk Christmas yet?
Premature buckling.
I mean, your birthday is tomorrow. You don't have to rush it into Christmas.
Summer just started.
Just started. 803-0550, big trade, Steelers and Dolphins. Also here to talk about a lot of the Sabres stuff. We'll get back to them. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog. Lines are open for you. This is WGR. Welcome back. Thanks for being with us. Should be a fun week. It's not always the most fun when it comes to the Sabres around July 1st. You know, usually we tend to feel left out. But we'll see. Still stuff to do. And with the holidays, Canada Day, tomorrow, Bulldog's birthday, who'd want to miss that? You're rarely here on your birthday.
Yeah, I got a chuckle out of you making sure that I was not off this week. I have been off this week. I often have worked on my birthday because it was July 1st and then been off right after
Because of hockey.
Because of hockey, right. But that's become less important over the years. But anyway, clarifying this after, you're in today, right?
Yeah.
So no, yeah, all week, right. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it was like 1:30 and I hadn't gotten a Paul update from you yet, so I wanted to make sure that you were actually coming in.
Yep.
And then the 4th on a Friday, I like that. 4th on a Friday is good.
Who can't get behind that?
Right. We don't want it on a Saturday or Sunday.
I love it on a Friday. It's the best on a Friday.
Might be the best. Or Monday.
Going back to the days, I think Friday even better if you're like, you know, when we had the cottage and that like everybody would come for a 4th of July party, we would end up having it on weekends because we didn't want people to be hanging out and then have to go to work the next day. Well, 4th of July on a Friday, most folks, that works pretty well.
Here's Brian next. Hi, Brian.
Yes, I'm going to sort of agree with you and disagree with you on a few things. One, I think the Steelers are going to have more than 8.5 wins. I think they'll beat their division at least 4 out of 6 games. And then you look at the rest of the schedule, I think they're capable of getting to about 10 wins. Rather, I won't say easily, but it's doable. And then I think they will win at least 1, maybe 2 playoff games with Rodgers as their quarterback because he's a Hall of Famer. He knows what he's doing, and I trust that defense. Number 2, I'm going to talk about the Sabres. Their goaltending is really good with UPL. They need a real veteran goalie. I do agree with that. I'm not sure if it's going to be one from New Jersey, but they do trust Kevin Adams at that. Their defense is pretty set, I think. It's the forwards I'm more concerned about. I do believe this could potentially be a team that could be reckoning because if we remember 2020, they just missed it, like Paul Hamilton said earlier, just by 1 game. Then you look at the other one when the young goalie game came up from college, Devin Levi. Now he's in Rochester, but we missed it by 1 point that year. I think we get over the hump this year. I do believe this is potentially the team.
Okay, thanks, Brian. It's a big jump. It would be a big jump. I mean, that many years ago is almost moot. Some of the team is the same, but what are we talking about? They had 79 points. What do they need? 95?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
I think they have a long way to go. We'll see if you're right. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog. Lines are open. This is WGR.
Rumors of this began rumbling this weekend, and now Elliot Friedman and Darren Dreger are reporting that forward Mitch Marner is being traded from Toronto to Las Vegas and is expected to sign an 8-year deal. The rest of this trade not yet being reported, but that is another unrestricted free agent name off the list before free agency even begins. The other being Aaron Ekblad, as Florida keeps that defenseman to an 8-year deal worth $6.1 million per year. Not the only defenseman getting a contract today. Edmonton and Evan Bouchard, a 4-year, $10.5 million per year, and the Islanders with Alexander Romanov, an 8-year deal worth $6.2 million per year. We also had Sabres development camp begin today. Our own Paul Hamilton was down there. We'll get more on that, the draft from this past weekend, and of course free agency starting tomorrow when he joins the show in just about an hour, so do stay tuned for that. And the NFL also got involved in the trade talks today as Jalen Ramsey does get his move. He heads to Pittsburgh. Going along with him is tight end Jonnu Smith in a 2027 7th, while Miami, they get a reunion with safety Minkah Fitzpatrick, and they add a 2027 5th as well. Fitzpatrick was drafted by the Dolphins in 2018, but was drafted to Pittsburgh in September of 2019. And then just after 7 o'clock tonight, the Yankees traveling north over the border to take on Toronto. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp.
You might be mocking me or you might be staunchly agreeing with me. I can't tell.
I'm mocking you.
And the Bulldog.
What is Fozzie Bear's role in this production?
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
Well, that's a big news story, the trade of Mitch Marner to Vegas. A big hockey news story. Mitch Marner to Vegas, and he gets an 8-year, $12 million per year contract, reportedly from the Golden Knights. I mean, in terms of the Sabres, there was never any real reason to talk about it, I think.
No.
Like, from either side?
It was fun for like a day, theoretically. Just because there was... I think Paul felt this way. They don't need him. They need a different type of player, which I thought was kind of insane for the level of player that he is. Like, he'd be the best guy on the team the minute he walks in the door. Most accomplished player. Sure, is he more of what they've got too much of already? Maybe small and perceived as soft and not gritty and all that. Yeah, but he's also a 100-point guy who gets Selke votes. So, you know, I got room for that guy. In the last 14 years, you're out here going, I don't need that guy. I think you maybe should, check yourself a little, at least, respectfully to Paul and anyone else who felt that way. What are you doing? But no, it never had a chance of getting off the ground in any realistic fashion. So it was more like a thought experiment for Sabres fans, I think.
Yes, I guess it was.
Like, pretend you have a National Hockey League team. Would you want this player on it? So anyway, I don't want to get hung up on this at all, but some of the wording here is. Darren Dreger says Marner signed to an 8-year deal with the Leafs and traded to Vegas.
Mm-hmm, right.
Did
I say it wrong? I might add.
No, I don't even know. The reason the trade had to happen before July 1 was so that Vegas could sign him to an 8th year. Like, if they have him before midnight or noon tomorrow, whenever the new league year begins, then you can do that yourself. So that's kind of funny to me that the Leafs got that part done for them. I mean, I'm sure it was consulted with Vegas, but I just think logistically, or I don't know, from a mechanic standpoint, I'm not sure why the Leafs had to sign him to the contract. That was for Vegas to do. That's why you get him before July 1, but whatever. Either way, it's 8 years.
Don't know. It is a tough if we had an NHL team. I mean, I was asked earlier today after the events of the weekend, which were, include the Peterka trade, I suppose, the draft. The Sabres made another trade, flipping defensemen on Saturday. Is there any hope? And my response was, there's never none. Like, there's always some reason to think this year, and we just had a caller who was like ready for it. He also has the Steelers winning 2 playoff games. I don't know. But, optimistic guy. Like, it's never 0, right?
Right.
But Marner, Ekblad, it's just like punch after punch after punch. Star players that are going to get the biggest money in Marner's case, or go back to the Stanley Cup, the 2-time defending Stanley Cup winner for less because he loves it. And there just is no version of that here, Like the trade, the Peterka trade doesn't have to really backfire. It doesn't have to blow up. It's just, even listening to how I put that, the Sabres do it. It doesn't have to blow up in their faces. I mean, you just want this. This is only me talking, but you might feel somewhat likewise. You want to move that seems cool, right? Just seems cool. Drafting a big guy is cool for a draft pick. It's top 10 and the guy was well respected. That's fine. I mean, that doesn't. It's not like you can't count that. But trades, free agency, that's where we're at now.
It does nothing for you this year at all, or probably next even. Yeah.
Of course, but you could have thought it was cool to do.
Sure, I did. Yeah.
You did. But in terms of the roster, the Pittsburgh trade kind of does nothing in that way. The Utah trade really does nothing in that way. Doesn't mean they have to be bad. It just means there's no Q rating. There's no wow, right? The wow is the other when Peterka's traded. That was kind of a wow thing. Not that it was shocking to people, but I want a wow move that benefits them. That sort of is
yeah.
Now, the Taylor Hall point, and I don't want to get stuck there either, but that was cool. That was something where they thought they had a team good enough to be able to do that, and they weren't. They didn't. But Hall didn't help them either.
No.
It didn't work at all.
It's not like he showed up and produced and they still couldn't win or anything. He didn't help them at all.
He had 2 goals.
Right. Playing in a primary role. That's pretty incredible, actually. Though his career mostly has become that now. He's just not as impactful as he was. He peaked in that year in Jersey and won the MVP and has just never been the guy again. So whatever, there's age, maybe injury, just over the years. But yeah, you want something that I don't need to win news conferences either, but something that's credibly elevates the team, right? That gives you something that is going to push you over the edge. I like the boxes that are being checked by all of the players that they have added. NHL players that they've added. I'm not speculating about the draft picks. I like Timmins for Clifton, and I like Kesselring partnering with Owen Power. I think it's mostly patently absurd that it's taken 3 years to find a suitable partner for Power, but okay, hopefully they're there now. And I like Doan as a bottom 6, winger, depth piece, responsible, 200-foot play. All those things that they needed to be better at. But they still need to make sure they keep their eye on the ball as far as offense goes. And what you fear them doing here, I'll speak for myself. What I fear them doing here is oversteering to try to get out of the skid. We don't have enough toughness. We don't have enough grit. We don't have enough defensive responsibility. We don't have enough size. Right? These are all things that in different ways, they're sort of almost all the same problem, but they have gone hard at trying to address that. It just cannot be in the name of scoring goals entirely. You need that on your team. I think those players will help make them better if they can fix their power play and if they can score like they scored last year. You can't just give the other thing up and say, well, we're allowing fewer goals, but, we're scoring fewer now too, and so we have the same record. That's the hamster wheel life. I got to get out of that. So that's why they're more than most off seasons with them this year. These moves I'm struggling with because I mostly like the additions, I think they're suitable. They were, if not required, I can listen to. We needed to do this. We need this sort of player. Okay, I'm nodding. I'm okay. Yeah. What about the other part? You got to be able to do all the things, and I'm just not confident they're going to find their way to. And then they can still turn Byram into something that can help them up top. That has to be the hope.
Well,
and I hope one real quick. Luke Fox last hour with us. Talking makes, I hope the right point. It's a good point. I hope it ends up being the right point. That the Islanders re-signing their guy and Ekblad re-signing, and maybe the Kings are going to do the same thing with their guy. Like if trade ideas for defensemen all get picked off one by one here coming up to tomorrow, then maybe Byram's value does go back up to the point where I can pull off something that, at least gets our attention offensively, skill-wise.
Elliot Friedman says Marchand is staying in Florida for 6 years under $32 million. So he's 37.
Wow.
6 years. Why not? It's just money.
Right. Wow.
Cap going up. That's what these teams are doing. It's just money. Sabres have to choose to do it and then hope that somebody will take their money. Byram, think about him for this point. I don't even really need to qualify it, but I don't think I'm going to like how it sounds, so I'm going to do that. It's not to say that their players are all bad. Tage Thompson is obviously really good. He's going to play in the Olympics, and he's been great for the Sabres. But how did they get him? O'Reilly. Trading for Tage Thompson, you could have been the most optimistic person, maybe, on him. I think he's surpassed even that person's expectations for him. He just blew up as a player in a good way. But it wasn't a fun moment. And, he had a long way to go to get here. I'm saying that too. But the name a player on the team where his acquisition was a fun moment. It's lottery picks. Dahlin, that has to count. Maybe Owen Power, although you could have said this is not the perfect year to have the number one pick still. But that's not even real. That's just you were so bad and you won a drawing.
Right.
And you picked who most people, if not all, would have picked in that spot. Thompson was O'Reilly. Tuck was Eichel. We don't really have, Levi yet.
But that's Reinhart.
That's Reinhart. And was Peterka that draft pick? I don't remember. Whoever the draft pick was, still, that's just sort of a secondary revelation. They got this player in the trade with Florida or whatever. Still, who is somebody on the team where their acquisition really felt good? And, Byram was Middlestat, and that wasn't like the others really so much, but it was still, that means Middlestat didn't work out. We kind of thought for a minute he would, but that didn't work out. Let's see if this other guy who didn't work out for his team works out for us. Well, that didn't really happen either. And who am I missing? That it's draft picks, and some of them are good or even great. Dahlin is obviously great.
Right.
And then it's just guys that, a wow trade, it would be new for the Sabres to make a move.
I think
we would love.
I got to go back to Evander Kane. I think, and that of course that predates the O'Reilly trade that got them Thompson. So I mean, and that even predates the O'Reilly trade to begin with. Maybe that's it. That team, Tim Murray, did these things that were headline and attention grabbing, and that's not why they did not work. They were good. I think they were good enough ideas. It just, did not come into full bloom. But that's a while ago now. Jason Zucker, no. Jordan Greenway, no.
McLeod, that was Savoy.
Right.
That didn't feel good. I mean, it was okay.
Yeah,
but you're still trading a number one pick that you never got to see, which, again, not saying that they shouldn't have done that. And he's been fine. He was good. It's just you want to have... Remember the Diggs trade? Late at night, one night, you're watching something SVU, some random weeknight, You're on your phone. You're not even listening. You're falling asleep. You're eating chips. And then, like, your phone goes, the Bills are trading for Stephon Diggs. Oh, my God. Like, you're up all night now. You're texting everybody. Like, it was so cool. Not that it was, like, unanimously popular. It's a number one pick. Is he even that good? But it was so cool. And, like, the Sabres just do not do cool things. They can't, or they just don't. Right. But sadly, I mean, if you think about it in this perspective, I don't recommend it. But even like some of their best guys, Tuck and Thompson, most of all, were acquired under duress. They were good players, in Thompson's case, more of a prospect that you settled for because the best guy in the deal wanted to leave. It's exactly what happened in both cases. And whatever we count for Reinhart is what happened there too. And now it's Michael Kesselring, right? Like that's the next one. Or it's another one where the best guy wanted to leave here, and maybe he'll have a nice career and be a good player, but it's still not like there's no wow moment. Drury and Briere were both. You might not have been. I don't think I was that excited about Daniel Briere. I don't think I knew very much about him, but I know I didn't like Chris Gratton.
Right.
So trading Chris Gratton for somebody different to sort of jazz things up, we'll see how that goes. It was kind of like, all right, that's maybe more like Middlestat. I don't know, but Gratton wasn't even there. Not that it matters. Now it's ancient history anyway, but like originally there. They traded for him before that wore out, and they traded him for Briere. And Drury was a cool move. I mean, wasn't that? You were always more the Drury guy, but when they did that on Canada Day,
yeah,
didn't they do that? Like
it was July 3rd.
July 3rd. Okay,
yeah.
It was this week, and like wow, that's interesting.
Yeah,
this guy will be fun to talk about and cool to watch. Like he's done the Little League World Series, even like he was a known, good, interesting get by the Sabres. Who did they give up? Warner?
Yes, Warner, and there was another guy whose name is escaping me. That was a Colorado guy that was like maybe it was a. I can't think of the whole trade.
Okay,
there were some other names, but nobody bigger than them.
I don't know if I feel like I'm stretching at this point. I mean, Drury wasn't a star exactly, and neither was Briere.
Yeah.
So they may or may not be this, but I think it's safe to say Steve Bejin, Rhett Warner, Steve Reinprecht.
That's the guy. Reinprecht I couldn't think of. Bejin I should have been able to think of, but Reinprecht was the guy I had stuck in my head.
And he was here only on paper.
Yeah, right.
I think.
That's what I think. Yeah. That's why it's sort of a little cloudy. Kulik, by the way, is the other pick. The first-round pick, the Reinhart trade. Not the Turco.
Okay, right.
Right, it's Kulik. And just to close, just to fill that.
And I got Reinhart scoring 57 goals and piling up cups. I mean, Kulik, poor Kulik, poor Thompson, poor Tuck. Not their fault. It's just you can't really. They're not wins. You know, they're really not wins. In terms of like the moment of the trade.
Right,
and Thompson comes pretty close.
Thompson comes pretty close, but you're up against a playoff MVP in a cup,
and you're rebuilding again when you do it.
So even that against as big a star as Thompson is right now, you'd obviously rather have him on your team than Ryan O'Reilly right now. But the hardware is hard to argue with.
Is this maybe the right way to put it? All these moves that have built the roster they've built have been backing up moves. Steps back.
Yeah.
O'Reilly was, Eichel was, Reinhart was, of course, quintessentially those moves. Mm-hmm. So good if you get away with it. That's what we're hoping for with Sabres trades, that they get away with it. Trading Peterka, who's sad, latest guy to be traded because he's sad, and he's going to be expensive, so there's strike two. You're hoping to get away with it. You're hoping that the two guys you get make you forget about him.
Yeah, and they better be hoping that they don't. There's not like some revision on what happened there. Like if it ever comes to light that the problem was them committing to him, not the other way around, they're gonna get buried. And I don't know that is the case. I'm just saying, like, we get years or months away from these events. And sometimes people start talking, right? I found out last summer that Kyle Oposo thought his last season in Buffalo was over before Thanksgiving. So if it comes to be known that, like, really, Peterka, he would have signed here. It was just the Sabres balking at making him part of the core because Lindy didn't like his defense or something. Oh my gosh. Like, it's never going to stop raining. And look, I don't know that that's the case. I almost feel silly bringing it up. It's just that happens with this stuff. We get the real story when everybody feels safe. And I wouldn't put it past the Sabres to be balking at making a guy that's got obvious flaws, shortcomings as an all-around player, an $8 million a year player in the league or something. I would have done it. I think he's a good enough player to have done it, but they've gotten burned doing that with some guys here.
Yeah. And this is where one of us says, well, maybe it'll be different now tomorrow.
Right.
It's where one of us says but
maybe.
Free agency is almost always
depressing.
That's the word for it. And can we see them make Evander Kane? My son was in kindergarten or first grade because I remember, like, getting he didn't even know, but I was excited about it one random weekday, and, like, I think of his teacher as, like, being a conduit between me and him to talk about this thing the Sabres did. He probably had no idea what I was even doing, bothering him. But I was that psyched. Mm-hmm. I thought it was brilliant. They gave up a lot, but I thought it, like, he's hurt. It's perfect.
Yeah,
it was
we talked about it before it happened.
Yes,
that it's a perfect move for them to do this because the fact that he is hurt. Well, it's a great time to do it. You don't need him right now. You really don't even want him right now. So go do it and bring him out with your whole new team in the fall of 2015, and that's what they did.
Is trading for Evander Kane the last Sabres trade where it was not considered a step back? Well, O'Reilly was
after that, and that has to, I think, that has to outrank Kane for this.
Yes,
and I think that might be it. Because since then, it's been trading for O'Reilly was not backing up. I mean, they gave up a lot. They went hard, and that was to come do this with Kane and Eichel and Reinhart, and, like, here we go. We got to add water and stir. We got a hockey team here, and we know how it didn't.
That was 10 years ago. Yeah. 15 draft Eichel. That's the Eichel night.
Right.
That's
10 years.
Maybe 10 years and a few days ago is when they did that. So it's been. Are we saying that? Is that the ultimate conclusion here, that they have not?
Unless we're missing something that has happened between then and now, I can't think of anything.
That it was like, cool. That was your reaction to when was the last Sabres trade where you went, cool? This is entertainment, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, this show. And hockey and the Sabres.
Sure.
But this is
yeah. Well,
you're enjoying this out there, right?
Enjoying might be strong, but you're probably hearing it and you're feeling things. If you're feeling things, if you're like me, you found out about that trade on the radio. I work here. We got done. I'm driving to Canada. It's summer. Woo! I'm on vacation, and, like, I'm hearing them tick off the pieces, and the signal's starting to fade as I'm getting closer to my. I'm hearing. Okay. Oh, Zadorov.
Right. They just kept naming players who were going.
Zadorov and Comfer? Oh, one or the other. Oh, but okay, O'Reilly, he's awesome. Then he drove his truck into a Tim Hortons.
And Grigorenko?
Yeah, right.
Well, trades. Taylor Hall, cool when they did that.
Yep.
Stahl?
No.
Or when they made him assistant GM? No. Not cool.
No.
Not interested at all in that. Just another bad taste in my mouth. That move. Who knows? Maybe he'll be amazing. Will we ever know it? I'm sure I'm just off the rails here now. Frustrated. Let's have something cool, maybe. What do you think? Yeah. Sure, Mike. 803-0550. Lines are open. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
Sabres have announced that they've extended qualifying offers to forward Tyson Kozak and Ryan McLeod, defenseman Byram, Ryan Johnson, and Connor Timmins, and goaltender Devin Levi. However, they did not offer a qualifying offer to Jacob Bernard Docker. He is now going to be an unrestricted free agent. We're going to get more on the Sabres. Paul Hamilton going to join the show at 6 o'clock. Around the rest of the league, a very busy day ahead of free agency beginning. The big news being Marner. He is heading to Las Vegas, a trade and sign with Toronto. But before that gets done, he is signing an 8-year deal worth $12 million per year with Toronto before he is then dealt to Las Vegas. And then Florida. They go 3 for 3, keeping Sam Bennett, Aaron Ekblad, and Brad Marchand. Ekblad, 8-year deal worth $6.1 million, and Marchand, a 6-year deal, and that is reportedly going to be under $32 million in total. Some other defensemen also signing contracts: Edmonton and Evan Bouchard, 4-year, $10.5 per year. Columbus and Ivan Provorov to a 7-year, $8.5 million, and Islanders and Alexander Romanov, 8-year deal worth $6.2 million per year. The NFL, though, could not be left out of the trade deals as they had one come down earlier this morning. Ramsey gets his move. He goes to Pittsburgh. Also going with Jalen Ramsey to the Steelers, tight end Jonnu Smith and a 2027 7th, while Miami, they get a reunion with safety Minkah Fitzpatrick. They also add a 2027 5th in that deal. Fitzpatrick, originally a draft pick of Miami back in 2018, was traded to the Steelers in September of 2019. It's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's just tough this time of year, the way it goes, to get an impact player off of a team right now for a draft pick. That's just, I guess, just the easiest way to say it. But we were having conversations right up till close to when the pick was made. There weren't the deals that I felt would have made our team better, and that's what I set out to do. If we were going to trade pick 9, it was because it was going to help the Buffalo Sabres right now be a better team, and that just didn't present itself.
At the risk of taking Kevin Adams too literally here, there was really no opportunity to trade the 9th pick for a usable player that would have helped them? Like just 1-for-1? Is that believable? I mean, there's more context necessary, but he's literally saying that, I think, in that clip.
I mean, you have to bake in what he believes the value of the pick to be, right? Would someone give you their 7th defenseman for the 9th pick? Sure. Would you do that? And could that help you this year more than the pick will? I mean, it has a chance to play for you this year, and the pick doesn't. So
this year, it would have to.
Being literal about it, like they're.
But couldn't you do better? You really couldn't do better than the 7th?
Yeah, I'm exaggerating to just try to make the point. It depends on what he thinks it's worth, and so it's that's got to meet the value. If he thinks the 9th pick should be able to get me someone that is more than a replacement level player, I think he's misguided. So that's why trading the pick was never that realistic to me, because I doubt someone's going to offer you something that's more than that for the 9th pick in a weak draft. So I never really thought it had a chance of getting off the ground.
I would think there would be probably, maybe I'm wrong, numerous players around the league that their team considers expendable. They're under contract. Maybe the contract is onerous, and they'd like to be done with it. Do we still have these? We've had a lot of these over the years. Do we still have these? Like Skinner a year ago. Mm-hmm. No buyout. Instead, you offer him for the 9th pick of the draft. Like, is everybody saying no? Because they don't think that's going to help their team. Again, Adam's point is helping the team this year. This draft pick is a 0 for this year.
Right.
There's nobody, literally nobody he could have gotten for it that wouldn't have made them better. Isn't that the point? Neither is this my crusade.
Right.
Like, I didn't need them to trade the pick, but I feel like that's what I'm hearing, is there was no opportunity to acquire a player that could have been in their lineup.
I would not have wanted them if Jeff Skinner were on the LA Kings and had the same career to this point, and it's a year earlier, whatever. Like, they want to give me Jeff Skinner with the remaining bit of the remaining contract and the 9th pick. I wouldn't want to do that.
I wouldn't want to do it, but that isn't what he's saying.
I know
that was not
right
available. I mean, again, it would be money. That would be the thing that separates the Sabres and the other teams is, and this is not going to come out of Adam's mouth, but it would cost. That's why those players are available. We've had them on the Sabres that you would love to dump because the contract is so bad. Like, those guys would exist around the NHL right now, and maybe teams would love to trade them for draft picks and be out, wash their hands.
Right.
And now I've got a few, but the Sabres weren't even offered one example of that. That's just hard to believe, I think.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that they were or weren't. I'm just saying I wouldn't want to make that deal. I don't think it may help you this year, but what are we doing?
I might not either.
Right. But yeah, literally what he says, I don't know. There's no way I'm ever going to be able to prove it. But almost anything, literally, like if you want to take it literally, absolutely literally, anything that you could get for the 9th pick that could play for you this year would help you more than the 9th pick will.
That's right.
But in the big scheme of things, draft, develop, all that. Like, I'm satisfied that they didn't make that kind of a move myself. But I'm also satisfied with the player they picked because it was kind of the guy I wanted them to pick. So we'll see.
I don't need. I guess I don't have anything more to say to it. It's just. I gotta hope that he's not right. That's where I'm ending up here. I gotta hope that he really didn't find a single player around the league that he could have for the pick. Because when I get, how I can get, I don't say we don't have this quote, right? And Adams, if I'm in a certain mood, and he just happens to say benignly at a press conference, I'm here to do anything that makes this year's team better. I'm like, oh, well, why didn't you trade the 9th overall pick then? Because that clearly would have done that. But, he just did that for me. In that quote, he does that for me. He's like, I couldn't even, he doesn't say I wanted to, but he's like, I would have. Same thing, almost, I would have, but I couldn't. We gotta get through this next. Did I say earlier this is a fun week? Did I actually literally say this is a fun week?
You did. I think anyone who really knows you and knows the show knew you didn't mean it.
I mean, I did. I did mean it. I just didn't think it through.
Oh, I see.
I like that there's stuff.
Right.
And, it can be cathartic to sort of talk like this and maybe even hope that it means something. But, it's better than 2 weeks from now will probably be. And it's shorter.
There's
shorter.
There's action. Yeah, it is a short week. That's
holidays,
right. We get Friday.
rank hot dogs.
Friday's good.
Stuff,
Not watch the hot dog eating contest.
We'll get. Oh, absolutely not.
All good things.
We'll get through this. Maybe that would have been a better message. Rob is next. Hello, Rob.
Hi, guys. Appreciate you taking my call. I just had a couple of quick points. Number one, personally, just my opinion, but I think most GMs are pretty terrible in the NHL draft anyway. I mean, even some of the more successful teams typically just get really lucky with players. And so, I mean, it's less than even a 50% hit rate on a lot of these guys. Part of me is just thinking, hey, put as many eggs into that basket as you possibly can. I know, in the NFL, we always joke about trading down and picking up as many picks as possible just to.
Ooh, that's no joke.
Cabinet.
that's no joke.
Yeah. So that to me, it's hey, I'm really kind of like Bulldog, just indifferent as to whether they pick the guy. Now, defense. I mean, I don't know how many times do you want to spend first round picks on defense when especially you can pick up fairly skilled players on offense at that position, but regardless, another point regarding why we maybe haven't seen trades as much is because of the salary cap is substantially increasing over the next few years. And so
I've read that. Yeah, people have had that theory that's probably keeping players in house. I don't think I heard Bulldog say he was indifferent to this player. I'm more indifferent to this player, but you wanted this player.
This defenseman, yeah. If that's what he meant, I didn't know exactly what he meant when the way he used indifferent there, like pertaining to what exactly. I like this player absolutely. I argued for another defenseman, especially someone bigger that has the potential to play with some physicality, although that's got to be developed. I like this player on paper a lot.
I think I don't understand really like how it's so true that GMs are bad at drafting. If maybe there were later round picks that were good all the time, I think I could maybe listen to that. But it's not like it isn't a slope downward from the first pick. Who are they supposed to be picking? You know, like if you want to use the Sabres for this, the last 10 years, who are they supposed to be picking? You know, you can cherry pick stars, one or two or a few stars from other teams, but they're almost all of them are going to be in the first round. And then you have a couple of guys that seem more fluky that come in later. So I don't know. I don't share the opinion that these guys are just in general really, really bad at drafting. Thanks, Rob. Here's Matt next. Hello, Matt.
Hey guys, a couple things. I don't mind what they did with the trades. For some reason, the Sabres seem really good at being able to find players that can score and put up points. What they have problems finding are guys that can seemingly do it while actually playing some sort of defense or some sort of responsible defensive game. They seem to find players that are great at putting up points but not very good at anything else. And also to the point that the Sabres need more size. I don't really agree with that anymore. Now, if you wanted to say they need players that play bigger, I can get behind that because they have a lot of big players that don't really play big. But
that's right.
The Sabres are bigger than the Florida Panthers are. They're heavier and they're taller. So the Panthers, about 3 pounds lighter than the Sabres on average, and the Sabres are, fractions of an inch taller. They're the 7th tallest team in the NHL.
Yeah, it's all about what you're doing with that height and weight. And you can think of Owen Power tilts it hard, height and weight, but he's not a physical player at all. It's one of the reasons why they need someone physical on his pair, I think, and they hopefully got him in Kesselring. Tage Thompson is one of the biggest forwards in the history of the league. Not a physical player. He's willing to defend teammates, but he is not someone who is intimidating from a physical standpoint. Yeah, the other thing you need to do, you need to score and also bring something else to the party. Be antagonistic, be annoying to play against, flat out hard to play against, physical, finishing checks, anything. And that's been in very short supply.
All right. Paul coming up at 6. Listener mentions Jeff Skinner as another. Was that cool when they got Jeff Skinner? I'll say yes to that. I think I could include Skinner on the list of cool things the Sabres have done.
Yes.
But the point we spent some time on earlier is even their best players, you've got lottery picks like Dahlin and Power, but Thompson, Tuck, to name two, you didn't even really feel good about their being acquired.
Yeah.
Like Tuck is Eichel and Thompson's O'Reilly, and those were not exciting days or exciting moves.
Skinner is an omission. Yeah, that is a good correction by the listener because that was, and they got him for next to nothing really.
Yep.
It was, and it was he was good here for a bit. And then, got in the doghouse with a coach that probably maybe should have never been here, and then, whatever.
There were a lot of highlights with him.
Yeah.
That was fine to do, and it was cool when they did it. The point was just how few and far between, including, again, acquisition of some of their best players, are just not happy moments. And they are long overdue for one of those, however you want to come close to defining that. Paul coming up at 6, Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
wheels are gone. Fella stopped me on the street last night, said everything's alright. Roller coaster, make it through the day upright. It seems your meal ticket is gone, but life goes on. I could never imagine something better. Yeah, right. Now you're cooking on high heat in the middle of the street. Roller coaster, take me to a better time. Let's go. All sing your high line with the roller coaster of life. Yeah. It's time to all choose your timeline on the roller coaster of life. You seem to easily forget how to place your bet. When everyday life gets you down, you gotta steal the crown. Got to own it. Don't bitch and moan about it, please. God forbid you scrape your knees, and it's nothing to sneeze at. Oh, I've told you over and over again. You gotta get both hands around it and make your own plans. Roller coaster, it's taking over, it's about time. On the roller coaster of life.
Hey, did you see any of Scooble last night for
No.
Detroit?
No.
Boy, put him on the list. I mean, I know he should be on the list, but like for me, I've heard his name. I know a few weeks ago there was a big deal about how the Pirates they rearranged their rotation to avoid what would have been a matchup between Skeens and Scooble during some interleague play. He pitched the Sunday night game against Minnesota yesterday, and I think it was 7 of the first 8 or 8 of the first 9 were strikeouts, 13 strikeouts overall.
Cool.
Super fun. Another one of these guys. It's more and more pitchers for me, it seems, than like guys hitting. The pitcher is going to have the ball. He's, starting pitcher, 5 innings or more. Appointment to TV, man. Like Skeens and this guy, the Cincinnati guy from last week,
Chase Burns. It's him and Crochet tonight.
Burns and Crochet tonight?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Fenway.
All right.
How about that start to your career? You get the Yankees, and then you get Fenway. He's like, I thought I was in the National League and was excited about that. I used to think I would have to hit. Now you're giving me Aaron Judge, and you're giving me Boston doesn't have a great lineup at the moment.
Still the ballpark, yeah. That's a pretty good start to your career.
Burns and Crochet.
All right.
Scherzer and the Yankees from Toronto. I think it's Rodon. It's good, too. And then they have a day game tomorrow, I believe, because of Canada Day.
Sure, Toronto does, yeah.
Don't they always wear red jerseys on Canada Day?
They've done something.
The Yankees.
They've done something to commemorate it. Yes, that sounds right.
3:00 tomorrow.
All right.
Yeah, Scooble. I've had him in fantasy the last, I guess it's just the second year. And my team is bad, though. And I kind of hate it that
you got this.
It's dynasty. I hate to waste. Last year I had Scooble and Sale. And finished near the bottom because I had no power. And that's when I was excited about both of those guys winning the Cy Young, like last March. I bid up on Scooble because I heard somebody talking him up, like, all right, I'd like this guy for the Cy Young, and then Sale in a bounce back in Atlanta. And they both won. And I had him in fantasy, did not bet, drive to places like Pennsylvania, quote Pennsylvania, and make these bets. And at fantasy, how did I pull that off? Scooble and Sale on the same team, liking them both to win the Cy Young. They both do at huge odds. How did I get nothing out of it? Literally negative. Yeah. The cost of the fantasy team was my net.
It's a team sport, Mike.
How did I just come up with nothing out of that? What a waste. So now I'm sitting here watching them kill it again. And, I've got Burns, too.
How notable is it? Maybe it's because these guys are just coming so fast. I think you said this last week when you were mentioning Burns making his debut, that these guys are they're getting drafted, and there's like a little bit of minors that's like right up, just go on in. And it just seems like there's more guys I want to watch pitch than I can remember in a while, which is cool. Like I said, that'll get me. If Ohtani were on the East Coast, Judge is. I don't turn the Yankees on because I want to see Aaron Judge hit 4 times. But you get me a pitcher pitching against Judge like this Burns last week, I'm in.
I love a pitcher.
And, there's good quality there. Young, up-and-coming guys that are just all hitting at the same time.
I agree. We should mention that Dave Parker died. He was so cool to have on the show, one-timer.
Yep.
And speaking of cool and the Sabres, and where's the cool move? That guy was the personification of the word, Parker. The throw, if you don't know it, 79 All-Star game. The throw from right field in the Kingdome. The Kingdome is the show ever sounded older than the Kingdome reference. But it was pretty awesome. Just an iconic play.
Yes.
Use a word we've been throwing around today. Off the air. Next up, it's Paul Hamilton with us, Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
It's time to all choose your timeline on the roller coaster of life. Oh, you seem to easily forget how to place your bet. When everyday life gets you down, you gotta steal the crown. Got to own it. Don't bitch and moan about it, please. God forbid you scrape your knees, and it's nothing to sneeze at. Oh, I've told you over and over again. You gotta get both hands around it and make your own plans. Roller coaster, it's taking over. It's about time. Oh, sing your high line on the roller coaster of life. You've got to all choose your timeline with the roller coaster of life. Roller coaster. I want to go down the rabbit hole, down the rabbit hole of life. And now it's about to leave. Oh, roller coaster.
Sports. It's Mike Schopp.
He's Bulldog, talking sports. Call him on the telephone. Toss that bad Bulldog a bone. Bulldog, talking sports. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
On WGR.
All right. A heave and a hoe, and away we go.
Sports Radio 550.
I don't want to hear me from 30 years ago. Thank you very much.
NHL free agency starts tomorrow, and before that, the Sabres did officially announce that they've extended qualifying offers to forwards Tyson Kozak and Ryan McLeod, defensemen Bowen Byram and Ryan Johnson, along with Connor Timmins, who they just recently traded for, and goaltender Devin Levi. They did not, however, do this for defenseman Jacob Bernard-Docker. He is going to be an unrestricted free agent starting tomorrow. Sabres also had development camp today, and we'll get more on all of that as Paul Hamilton joins the show next. But ahead of free agency, a very busy day across the league. Mitch Marner, he is heading to Las Vegas in a trade and sign an 8-year contract worth $12 million per year. He is signing this deal with Toronto, and then it's going to be dealt to Las Vegas. Florida keeps their big three, Sam Bennett, Aaron Ekblad, and Brad Marchand. Ekblad today, an 8-year deal worth $6.1 million, and Brad Marchand, a 6-year deal as well for him, although it is expected to be coming under $32 million in total. Edmonton signs defenseman Evan Bouchard to a 4-year, $10.5 million per year contract. Columbus and their defenseman Ivan Provorov to a 7-year, $8.5. And earlier today, to get the day rolling, the Islanders did so with Alexander Romanov, an 8-year deal worth $6.2 million per year. And the NFL also got involved into the trade discussions. Jalen Ramsey finally gets his move. He's going to Pittsburgh. Also going with him, tight end Jonnu Smith in a 2027 7th, while Miami, they get a reunion with safety Minkah Fitzpatrick. They add a 2027 5th along with the deal. And for Fitzpatrick, he was drafted by the Dolphins back in 2018, but was very quickly traded to Pittsburgh in September of 2019. It's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
As you know, lots of hockey news from the weekend and now heading into tomorrow, July 1st. It might sound like today was July 1st by all the different major transactions happening around the league, but not so. You haven't missed it. I'm sure tomorrow will be a sizzler.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the big, well, some of the Marner was obviously the biggest. both of the Florida guys staying put today takes. Well, I mean, they're probably third and fifth on free agent lists. I'm guessing. I don't have that memorized, but they both rated as very attractive and cool ideas, and they're staying home.
Paul Hamilton with us now on the Wester Hotline. July 1st has not always been like a big party atmosphere around the Sabres, Paul, but maybe there will be a little bit of action.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to lie to you. I never thought that Florida would be able to find a way to bring all three guys back. Right. And they did it. Some guys took hometown discounts. I get that, but still, they found a way to bring all three of them, Bennett, Marchand, and Ekblad back, and that's good for Zito. I mean, that's why he has 2 Stanley Cups sitting on his mantle, and he's figured out a way to keep the guys together. So, I didn't see that coming. I will readily admit.
Going to that term on a guy like Marchand is really telling about what teams think about the cap. Just continuing to go up and up and up. Like they're not going to worry about what years 4, 5, and 6 necessarily look like with a 41-year-old Brad Marchand on their books, right? It's a pretty huge commitment, and I want to say for a player that age, maybe there's somebody that age that signed that long a deal before, but man, nothing springs to mind. It feels unprecedented.
Yeah, I mean, people are saying, well, if they re-sign Byram, which could happen. I mean, with what Adams was talking about, I'm sure we'll get to it on Saturday, it doesn't sound like it's out of the realm of possibility. He could even sign a 1-year contract or a 2-year contract or something like that. But even if that happens, many feel, well, that means you're not getting a forward. Why? I mean, why not? Just because Byram signs a contract, even if it's $6 million or whatever it might be, you can still sign a forward if you want to.
Yeah. The problem there is attracting a top 6 winger in free agency, Paul. The reason anyone
Well, I'm
would
just saying they can do it.
Yeah, I know, right.
The cap would not stop them from doing it is what I'm saying.
100% right.
From a cap standpoint.
Of course, right, yeah. The reason a no Byram trade, a Byram re-signing is going to be met with a thud, because him playing for a year or two with Dahlin, like that works. Right? I mean, it's not ideal. I'd rather turn him into something. That's the problem. He's the only chip left that I think, can lure a player here that has no trade protection, right? Somebody that may not want to come here if they had their choice, but don't.
But you could still do that.
Sure.
Even if you re-sign him for a year or two. I mean, the reason he would re-sign for a year, let's say, is because the Sabres are saying, look, we just don't have a trade that looks good right now. And he might say, he might say, all right, I'll sign for a year. You guys keep looking for a trade. I'll give you everything I got. And actually, for a year, I'll see what's happening here. Mm-hmm. If all of a sudden the Sabres turn into wheeler dealers and they've really improved the team and they're on the cusp where they make the playoffs or something like that, then maybe he changes his mind. And say, okay, I like what I see here, and I kind of enjoyed playing with Dahlin this year, and I know I'm on the power play, but if he plays with Dahlin, he's going to be out in all the important situations which he wants to be out in. So, but still, just because you sign him for a year or two, you could still be looking for that trade, and then the other team would have more of a cost. All right, we know what it's going to cost, and when that contract, 1 or 2 year contract, is up, then it's going to be our responsibility to bring him in the fold, and before the trade's made, you might let the other team talk to his agent to see what kind of numbers they're looking at, and what type of an extension.
How do you think they did with the defenseman they drafted 9 overall?
Fine. He's got some size. I'm not convinced that he can't, especially playing in the Western Hockey League. He had some things going against him. He had taken some English classes, but he showed up and it was like, well, this didn't do very much for me. Right. He was he had self-admitted it was like I had no idea. So he was trying to learn the language. He was on a team. Ratzlaff, who was a goaltender, who was also a Sabre draft, he was talking about today. He goes, we were way out of it. He goes, we were like 10 points out of it. And he shows up, and next thing you know, they make the playoffs. And, with basically Ratzlaff going on fire in goal and this kid showing up on defense and playing pretty well, he's not as rambunctious as their 3rd-round pick, but, I'm not convinced playing in that league that he can't figure that out and he can't learn that. And there's a lot of things that he does do well, both offensively and defensively. And I think it says a lot that he coming to Seattle really added to that team and helped them make the playoffs. And he gets a lot of credit for that now that they've drafted him. And I've kind of looked into that a little bit.
So today we have the restricted free agents, the news on that, the players who needed to be tendered, and all but one was. Bernard Docker was not tendered. What do you think is going on there?
And some of the Amerks who you would have expected,
Okay.
a second-round pick in Kisikoff, MacArthur, Tullio, they were not either. Kisikoff, as a 2021 second-round pick that didn't work out. You remember what they did with Jost? They did the same thing. They didn't qualify him, then they signed him.
Okay.
And that possibly could happen here. I'm not saying it will, but it could. They've done that before. I certainly don't think they were unhappy with him. I also think, we're talking about a 6, 7, 8 defenseman on the team. I don't know if it quite deserved the reaction that I got from many, many people. And I think I got that reaction is because anything that the Sabres or Kevin Adams does, is going to get trashed. And I know that, and I realize that. And it's just like, well, let's see how this works out. Let's see how, maybe he does get re-signed at a different contract. But even if he doesn't, we're not talking about a Norris Trophy winner here. We're talking about a guy who is their depth guy.
Right.
And ideally is maybe your number 7 guy. And maybe you got 6 guys better, and he's your number 7 guy. I think ideally is what you'd be looking for there. But I wouldn't go absolutely wild over it if they don't.
But I wouldn't either. I think you're making the right point here. Like, how much of a meter mover is the guy? But you say that about a lot of guys. I'm surprised, honestly, to learn that they did not qualify him. I don't think he's going to set the world on fire either. But if he displaces, I don't know, Bryson, maybe, then that's fine, as far as I'm concerned.
Why wouldn't they want to do it?
Yeah.
And we don't know if it's over yet.
Right.
As I said, they could re-sign him. That's what they did with Jost. They re-signed him the next day. So that could happen. I don't know if that's going to happen.
Maybe you do it because you think the player doesn't deserve the raise that comes with the RFA tender, and you think you can get him cheaper, and that's probably what happened with Jost, as it turned out. So maybe I hope that's what's happening, because that's an asset I don't think they should just walk away from.
Yeah, I don't mind him around, but if it happens, there are a lot more things I could get carried away with about this organization than that.
Of course.
But I see what you're saying. I didn't mind him here. I said earlier, and I didn't love him. I didn't hate him, which I think was good. I think he was solid. He didn't make fantastic plays. We went, oh, wow, but he didn't kill you at all. I mean, there weren't too many times where I was sitting there going, oh, can you believe that play? He just was good. I mean, he and Power, I thought, worked well together when they were there. I would keep him, and even if he's my number 7 guy,
right.
I would be working to make him my number 7 guy, because I think you're a better team if that's who he is. But well,
we'll see what happens there. Then.
Yeah, exactly. But I agree with you. I didn't mind him at all, and I'm just not blown away that if he isn't here. Would I have done something different as a GM? Probably. I think I would have qualified him if I'm not going to re-sign him. But I'm not going to get, as I said, with as many things as I could get crazy about here with this team and this GM. That probably wouldn't be one of them.
I don't think anybody's getting crazy. So the development camp this week, I was thinking it, and then boom, a picture popped up on my feed from the development camp peak era, I guess 10 years ago, right?
The scrimmage in the building. Yeah,
the building, the teams lined up, and the pictures from today, it's just like hardly attended at all. Did you sort of sense that? Like sort of the big picture of, so literally and figuratively, of how this thing has developed or evolved?
And it's evolved that the Sabres do it differently now, too. There's one guy from the Amerks here, like the youngsters, even some of the guys that just played their first year in Rochester. I think they look at it, the Amerks have been in the playoffs, so Helenius, Wahlberg, that group of guys. It's like Ostland, we would rather they get a bit of an off season here, work at their games and that type of thing. They've been to these camps before. The two Russian defensemen, Komarov, Novikov would be into that. So really, Tyler Koff, a guy they signed late out of college, is the only guy that is here from that group. So you don't see them anymore like you used to.
There's only 8 forwards. I mean, it's pretty small. It's pretty small.
Yeah, I think the way they look at it now is if you've done one of these camps, some of them have done more than one. That they don't necessarily have to come back for one. Right. So it's not as a big a deal as it used to be a big deal. Like they'd bring them in and they'd do cooking classes. And, this is, guys, you're going to be on your own soon. I know you're just 18 years old and, you got to figure out how to get your laundry done and how to balance a checkbook and how to cook. I mean, they used to do all that kind of stuff at this thing. And I think a lot of that has kind of gone by the wayside.
That's interesting, too.
Yeah, if that's right, that they don't do any of that side stuff.
I mean, it seems like that'd be well-intentioned.
Still seems
now
like
you get a fast food gift card or something. I wonder. It seems like maybe a good idea.
Yeah.
Foster team stuff.
But their new strength and conditioning guy, boy, they worked today. I'll tell you that. He put them through their paces, and they put in some work today.
So attendance is down both in the crowd and on the roster. That's the bottom line here.
Yeah, there were very few people there in the crowd.
Yeah. Well, did anything stand out from anyone who spoke? Because I saw some pictures. I think there was some media, right? You're there. Like, did anything stand out at all that needs to be mentioned here that anyone had to say today?
Yeah, just Ratzlaff talking about the Sabres' new #1 pick. He's, of course, was teammates with him, so – we talked to both of them actually, and just he had a lot of things to say about Mertka and being teammates with him, and how the team was able to come together and be able to get themselves into the playoffs. And Mertka was a big part of that, playing defense and the way he played. So that basically was a lot of the topic we were talking about. Mike Leone, the Amerks coach, is the one who will speak through this, and he talked about just the size of people out there. He goes, there were some big men out there. Unfortunately, Bukowski, the third-round pick, the rambunctious guy, as I talk about, he's ill, so he wasn't able to at least take part into today's festivities. Maybe he will be later down the line. Sturbeck, a second-round pick in 2023, a guy who's now spent 2 years at Michigan State. He is not there for personal reasons. Otherwise, he would have been there. But that's the thing I like, too, is the college players that can't come to training camp, and we don't get to see him. Sturbeck would have been there. Gavin McCarthy, same draft, third-round pick. He's from Clarence Center. He, of course, is there. Last year's second-round pick, Adam Kleber who played at Minnesota Duluth. Last year. He is a 6'5", 210-pound right-shooting defenseman. He's there. So we get to see some of the kids who are in school who we can't see in training camp because they've already started class and they can't play in the prospects tournament. Again, same thing. They're already in class, already practicing with their college teams. So this is really the only time of year we get to see those guys.
How long does this go for, Paul? Is it just like front half of the week here?
Yeah, it goes through Thursday when they have the 3-on-3 tournament. Well, that's fun, actually. That usually draws pretty good. But it is on a Thursday. It's not on a Friday or a Saturday, which I'm trying to think if in the past Saturday sticks out in my mind.
Yeah.
But this is kind of – but, with July 4th coming, on the weekend there. So they want to get it done. So they're going to do the 3-on-3 tournament on Thursday. And but that is always fun for any fans that want to come down and see. It's pretty good hockey that you see there. You get to see a lot of the skill that some of them have because it is 3-on-3. And there are going to be a lot more goals than normally you'd see if it was just a 5-on-5 scrimmage. So it's usually a lot of fun. It's pretty competitive. I mean, they give them the trophy and take the picture and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty competitive between each other, as they get through the week, that they get to go against each other and just get the fun bragging rights type of thing.
Very good, Paul. Thanks. We'll talk again soon.
Okay, take care.
There you go. That's our Paul Hamilton on the Wester Hotline. His appearances are brought to you by Equitable Advisors. Planning for your future is about more than just money. Let Equitable be your guide. And by Relax Honda. Relax, we got this.
News from the college ranks today. The Pac-12 has a new member.
Oh, yeah. It's a school that doesn't even sound like it's real. Like I thought it was like a made-up television movie school name. Is it Texas State?
Texas State.
Yeah. That's a real thing?
Yeah.
All right.
Texas State, welcome to the Pac-12. If we, or it wouldn't be us to do it, if it were ranked old sports fan complaints, is the scrambling of college conferences right maybe near the top?
Yes.
Because every time one of these happens, I'm just taken aback and want to just laugh about it. And bemoan the state of the world.
It's very much a our age sports fan problem. Yes.
I miss the Big Eight.
Right.
My wife went to Baylor, and it's like not even the Big 12. It's, well, I shouldn't date her, but you know what I mean. The Southwest Conference, the
Right.
Big Eight and the Southwest Conference, pre-Big 12.
Right.
Maybe she was there when it switched, but the real ones.
Right.
Know the difference between the Big
Sure.
Eight, Oklahoma,
Right.
Nebraska, Kansas, I think.
Arkansas.
Before the SEC, before the Big East, then they moved to the Big East last year, and this year they're moving into the Sun Belt. I think. They should consider those things. They should consider those moves. Everybody's bouncing around. Texas State in the Pac-12.
Texas State.
Stanford and the ACC is my number one.
Sounds like a TV movie where Keanu Reeves is the quarterback of the team. Texas State.
Well, there might have been one. There were a couple of those.
Yeah.
I think that is not too far off. What was well, I don't know. I think you might have something there, is what I'm saying.
Was it the movie that Jim Kelly was in? Unnecessary Roughness. I think there's a Texas something or other. That's what it tripped that wire for me.
Yeah, I think maybe that's right. I can see it. Earlier today, to look ahead at the time to free agency and talk about the Sabres' state of affairs, Luke Fox from Sportsnet. We do have the Marchand news, and Marner did happen between then and now, but he was talking about Vegas for Marner, and you'll hear what he has to say on Marchand, who ends up staying with Florida. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. That's coming up on WGR.
so gone. Fella stopped me on the street last night, said everything's alright. Roller coaster, make it through the day upright. It seems your meal ticket is gone, but life goes on. I could never imagine something better. Yeah, right. Now you're cooking on high heat in the middle of the street. Roller coaster, take me to a better time. Let's go. All sing your high line with the roller coaster of life. Yeah. It's time to all choose your timeline on the roller coaster of life. Oh, you seem to easily forget how to place your bet. When everyday life gets you down, you gotta steal the crown. Got to own it. Don't bitch and moan about it, please. God forbid you scrape your knees, and it's nothing to sneeze at. Oh, I've told you over and over again. You gotta get both hands around it and make your own plans. Roller coaster, it's taking over. It's about time.